See if they can. Time for Game Day, Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans with Tobin and Solana, Omar and Beasley. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Game Day, Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside my co-host Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing for us here today. It is week 14 of the NFL season, and those bastardly New York Jets are rolling into town today for a divisional matchup at Hard Rock Stadium. Solana Scroom still, right? I hate this team.
Oh, the water, Tobin. They're going to remind all the Jets fans are going to remind us about the water. It tastes better in New York. Oh, I'm already sick of it, man. I'm over it already.
Yeah, it's one of these things, man. This matchup coming up here is so key for the Dolphins. We'll get into the Thanksgiving matchup, but the Dolphins obviously their margin for error, Solana, if they're going to make the playoffs, not only do they need other teams in front of them to lose, but they pretty much need to win out. Their margin for error is 0.0, and that might not even be enough. But this is a game in your building. The way the Jets are right now, it basically feels like the white flag has been thrown up by their franchise, and this season and all this last 2 years of Aaron Rodgers' hope has gone by the wayside. They fired everybody. He looks washed. He's got a documentary coming out discussing how many drugs he's doing in the jungle. This is one of those where, Solana, this is a get-right game for the Miami Dolphins, is it not?
1 p.m. Sunday at home against a below 500 team. This is their type of game right here, baby.
This is the recipe.
This is the one where they go out there and they put it on the opponent. They give the fans something to cheer about. This is the one that will have us going into next week, Tobin, saying, okay, we're buying it again, aren't we, against a playoff team? Yeah, it is. It is. This is that type of game, in my opinion.
I can't say that you're wrong. That does seem like it is. That is always the thing that you have to deal with them, is like once you think you're out, then they pull you back in, and then inevitably the temperature strikes below 45, and they completely just go by the wayside. Everything is a disaster for them. Interesting week for them, though, Solana. Like, we did start getting the inclination that reinforcements were coming, especially on the pass rush. Bradley Chubb and Cam Good were both activated. Their practice windows were opened up by the Miami Dolphins. Bradley Chubb still not back all the way. He's not going to be active this week, but that was a good sign, Solana, that finally their star pass rusher looks like he is knocking on the door to come back, and especially if they do get into this stretch run for like the last 4 games, to have somebody like him in situations to just aid the young Chop Robinson and have just a little bit more force to bring on defense. That would be huge if they are going to make some kind of run here at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Tobin, like, do we think they're going to make the playoffs? You know, for me, it's tough because if the Dolphins win this game, right, and their playoff chances are still, what are they at right now? Like 12%? I mean, they can't be that much higher. Like, is there an argument here to be said that maybe Bradley Chubb should just take the rest of the year off? I realize this team is fighting and they're going to do everything they can. And if they win out, they get to 10-7. That's a pretty good year, man. Honestly, you win 10 games, considering the disaster that those 4 games were without Tua Tagovailoa. But if you don't make the playoffs, it doesn't matter if it's a good year or not. Like, it's a disappointment, period, end of story. And right now, it doesn't feel like 10 wins is going to get you into the playoffs right now. Anything can happen down the stretch, but it just doesn't feel that way. And if that's the case, do we want Bradley Chubb back? Do we want a situation like Jalen Phillips where he came back and another injury is going to keep him out again until the following season. So, I think it's great that Bradley Chubb wants to come back. I think it's great that, the Dolphins are going to get reinforcements with their star pass rusher. But I also am willing to have the conversation of, is this the right move for Chubb and for the long-term success of Bradley Chubb on this team?
Well, I think it's probably in the ilk of the Tyreek Hill thing too, right? Like, we know that he is on deck for a wrist surgery of some kind to get right. I think, if they get embarrassed today and they lose to the New York Jets and all playoff hope is officially gone, then I think everything you're saying makes complete sense. But until the final bell sounds on the Miami Dolphins season, I think you have to be in the spot where, no, he comes back. Like that's a thing where you got to be. And I don't think that they open up the window if they don't think it's close. Like, once you get to this part of the rehab, I think that, okay, he's basically on the doorstep of being ready to play football. It's been about a year, so it's not like it's not like a Jalen Phillips where he beat science and was crazy ahead of the timeline. He's taken his time, and man, it's kind of a position they need, Solana. This is one of those where he gets, and let's be honest with Bradley Chubb, a little bit like Teron Armstead, not been the most durable guy over his career anyway. So like, what are you're gonna risk? You're punting on the chance that he will get hurt again next season. So I think I think if you have a chance and he's good to go, it won't be this week, but for next week, getting after CJ Stroud, hell yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, that was I think the most frustrating part about that Packers loss, Tobin. I mean, going into that game, okay, we got duped again, right? Here they are, they're gonna do it, they're gonna go beat a playoff team, and they didn't. But to me, the most frustrating part was that the defensive line and offensive line had been playing very well. And I think everybody was very enthused watching how the defensive line had been performing for the Dolphins, whether it was Chop Robinson, whether it was Calais, whether it was Zach Sealer, just the fact that they were getting constant pressure on Stafford. And then they did it against the Raiders and they did it against the Patriots. They put Drake May in hell. And then to go out there against Green Bay and get 3 pressures on Jordan Love, 0 sacks on Jordan Love, that was infuriating. The offensive line giving up 5 sacks was infuriating. Like the trenches just fell apart for Miami. So I am with you. Like, you're going to go and play a game, which is in a dome, by the way, which is great. That's great news for Miami. You're going to go play the Texans next week. If you take care of business here, you could still look at the playoff picture and say, all right, this is interesting. Okay. And Bradley Chubb is going to make a big difference. I think, if anything, he just injects some new life into that defense.
Yeah, I think he definitely injects new life. And, CJ Stroud's been a guy that people have been able to get after a little bit this year. He's been sacked a lot. So that would be huge. It would have been huge to have him in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who feels like he can't get away from anybody. But, this is definitely a team that, even without Bradley Chubb, the guy you haven't had, they should be okay. So you don't have him this week. No, I don't think it's as big a deal. But for the Houstons, Cleveland's a bit of a wild card right now with the way Jameis Winston's been playing. San Francisco is obviously not the same team, losing Christian McCaffrey. But, right now the Dolphins, they have it all there in front of them, Solana. And it's not an impossible run to go on. We haven't seen that level of consistency from them, which I think would show something. It was interesting hearing, Tua talk about this week how he takes a lot of blame. He feels like, his absence is a huge reason, and we'll get more into that. But I also think there are levels of the Dolphins where, there's been things that have been inconsistent, things that you think you can start relying on. They're good for 3 weeks and then they're gone. The run game, the offensive line, the defensive line, like everybody's kind of had flashes this season of, oh yeah, this looks like it's figured out, and then it's not. And so that's definitely going to be an interesting thing to check out today. The run game and its issues. I wonder if the Dolphins can kind of get right a little bit against this New York Jets team. It is Gameday Uncensored, which is brought to you in part by your South Florida Chevy dealers. Looking for more power, capability, and technology with Chevy trucks? You're ready for anything Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. We'll get into a little bit more of the Dolphins' reaction to what happened on Thanksgiving Day. A lot of thoughts from the stars of the team on where they're at and what they need to do going forward for this stretch run. Gameday Uncensored is back after this.
WQAM broadcasting live
GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdMorseSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is game day. Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing for us. Dan, what's your situation with are you doing that super post game show today? Because we do have Heat basketball later on the program today. So what's your deal?
Yeah, quick shot. I'm going to be on from 3:45 to 4:45 leading into the Heat game.
Gotcha. All right, there you go. So Dan Day will lead into the Heat game, give you some thoughts on this Dolphins game. The Heat have a big game coming up tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, as the Cavs have been the best team in the Eastern Conference. Heat win last night against the Suns, so that's where they're at, and getting you ready for all of this. Of course, the Dolphins are coming off of a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Should mention also, by the way, this was a bit of a surprise that came over the wire, but Raheem Mostert, who is questionable with a hip injury going into this game. According to Ian Rappaport, he is out for this game for the Miami Dolphins. Now, mind you, his carries have been going down. Mike McDaniel had really gone away from using Raheem Mostert and had not been as potent a weapon as certainly he was last year, where he was the Dolphins. I mean, broke records of Dolphins touchdown records, total touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. But he will not be out there today. Gotta think that means Jeff Wilson will be activated and good to go for the Dolphins if they do need those tough yard situations. And Devon Achane's been having a pretty fantastic season for the Miami Dolphins, but that is one piece of injury news. The other piece we're really, I guess, wondering on is Teron Armstead, if he will be officially good to go. That's always a touch and go thing. Kendall Lamb was dealing with an injury on the offensive line as well with his elbow. So those are all things that with the offensive line, we wonder about. Where's it been? Has it been as good? Has it kind of fallen apart a little bit? Certainly, you have to worry that once Teron starts feeling the chinks in the armor, then all of a sudden it's not quite what it was, and you have to wonder what effect that's had. Because as soon as Austin Jackson went down, it did feel like the run production dipped down as well, which is, I guess, to be expected. He's your starting right tackle, and certainly. All respect to Kendall Lamb. A lot of his metrics have been good, and he's a dog, and he's a pro, and all that type of stuff. But you have your long-term money invested in a guy like Austin Jackson. So there are things with this offensive line. It does feel like maybe the Jenga blocks are starting to get pulled out from under them, and they may be starting to topple a little bit. That being said, this is certainly a team, even with the Jets having some talent on defense, and we got to keep out an eye on Sauce Gardner and what they're doing, and he's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Breece Hall's been ruled out for them. So not only is Raheem Mostert going to be out on the Dolphins side, but we do know that Breece Hall is going to be out for the Jets. So a lot of injury storylines going into this one that we have to keep an eye on. But that is on the Dolphins side, with Mostert being out with the hip and Teron Armstead, we got to keep an eye on always. But he does the whole thing. I don't practice all week. It's come to that time of the year for him.
Yeah. But Tobin, remember, he has been dealing with this knee injury now for a couple weeks. Because remember, we talked about it. Like, should he play Sunday versus the Raiders? Because I was a little bit nervous. Like, if he plays Sunday, is he going to be able to suit up Thursday against the Green Bay Packers? Short week, third straight week where he was dealing with that knee injury. So I know, they've had some extra days off now. But again, I was a little squirmish about that entire situation. Like, is this finally the week where it catches up to him?
Yeah, that short week thing has bit the Dolphins, man. It has not been good for them. And look, nobody wants to hear it, because if you go look at what they're doing in Detroit, how many games have they played in a short span of days? Like, they're getting after it. They're killing it. And, it's one of those things where, like, you say it when it's catching up to you as like an explanation, but everybody has to deal with it. Like, nobody wants to hear it with the Miami Dolphins. I think, like, we had that same scenario with Jalen Phillips today, where things went against the Buffalo Bills. It's like, should we just start him week 2 instead? So it's unfortunate. Let's look back, though, Solana, a little bit on that Thanksgiving game. First of all, like, how bad was your Thanksgiving from it? Like, did it ruin it? Did Did everybody uproariously laugh because you knew what was going to happen? Because that's kind of how it was for me. As soon as, I'm standing behind the couch, I have like the wide angle view over everybody because, I don't want to be bothered on the couch. So I'm a stand-up position for this Dolphins game. We're all gathering around. First drive by the defense looks good. Malik Washington muffs a punt. I'm like, of course. What did I think? Game over.
The second he muffed the punt, it was over. I knew it. I knew it from that point. And look, I do a Latino Thanksgiving, so I had empanadas. I had a turkey, sure, but I had empanadas. I had milanesas. I had meat. Like I can't. The Thanksgiving can't be ruined when you have delicious food like that out, Tobin. So here's what happened. I went in with those expectations. You know how I felt going into that game, like cautiously optimistic, because I thought the Dolphins were at a point where like they could actually exercise some demons. However, I trusted my instinct. I knew what was going to happen in that game. They were going to poop on themselves. That's exactly what happened. In the second half, they played good enough to win that game, but they did what the Dolphins have done to me my entire life, which is give you hope in a hopeless situation. And I think that's what they're doing to us again this season, which is winning games like today to give us hope in what's ultimately going to end up being a hopeless situation and actually ending up making the playoffs. So the second Malik Washington muffed that punt, I knew it was over. But it was frustrating, man. I know, it happened a while ago and people have kind of moved on. But
Not me.
Tobin, Tua played a great game. He did in the second half. In the first half, the Dolphins made no plays. That to me is what was frustrating.
It was very frustrating. I almost got canceled by Tuanon.
I heard.
No,
I've been listening to you all week. I heard that you almost got canceled, which is bizarre to me because, I mean, dude, you have a segment on your show called Our Tua. I mean, you are like Tua, one of the biggest Tua supporters, and have been and were when it wasn't easy being a Tua supporter.
That's what I'm saying, but this is the thing where everybody's lashing out because, I can tell the difference between a good game and a window dressing game. I feel like I've watched sports enough long enough to know, and people want to get after it like, oh, but his numbers were good. No doubt. And the only reason that they kind of gave you a little bit of false hope was because of him in the second half. The problem was the game was over already. Like, not only was it over at the Malik Washington muff punt, but it was over because you put up 3 points in the first half. You really expect you're going to come back from 24 points down? Like that's a silly thing. That's a silly thing. And there are things, there are drives, there are stands in the game plenty of times that are big momentum swings. And the only time where in the second half you thought they were going to maybe come back was on that goal line stand where they're not able to get it in. It was over, dude. Like, I don't want to hear about statistics and box scores. Like that's horse bleep. It's just complete nonsense for anybody to do that. And this was a game that was over by halftime. It was over as soon as they weren't able to score, and then Green Bay came back and put up an extra field goal on you to go into the break. I don't really understand why people felt the need to lash out, but I think everybody was just probably full of turkey and booze, and I suffered the wrath. So, whatever.
I don't understand how we've gotten here in this age of sports where, I guess, Tobin, like, people aren't really fans of teams that much anymore. They're fans of players. But
right.
they turn their fandom of a specific player into, like, the end-all, be-all argument. So you're either the biggest Tua Tagovailoa fan, and the guy can do no wrong, and you were willing to go to the depths of hell to defend this guy week in or week out, or you hate Tua passionately and the guy can do no right. And you were microanalyzing every little thing that he does. And I just live in the middle, man. I like Tua. I'm glad he's our quarterback. Clearly, he's a very important guy, but I'm willing to look at the first half and understand, okay, he didn't make any plays. I mean, the Dolphins scored 3 points in that first half in a game that defined their season. And does that all lie on the quarterback? No, of course not. Tua's not the only one that didn't make plays. Tua's not the only one that was shaking on the sideline. Mike McDaniel.
Oh, my God. He was so cold.
Oh man, I mean that's a bad look too, right? McDaniel
Well,
shaking on the sideline.
This is the thing that he made as a huge mistake. All right, as a very thin man, I can't really relate, but I do know I have a daughter who's very, very skinny, and they're always cold. And I just think that the point is, Dan's a very thin man. Dan, are you not always cold?
The story of my life is that I'm always cold. I keep jackets here in Miami stowed away in my car and in my locker because I am freezing at all moments.
So he tried to do a thing, Mike McDaniel. This was another big mistake by him. He tried to show how tough he was going only hoodie on the tundra.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Big mistake.
I hate that. I hate that so much. The guy who's in the cold who tries to make it seem like he's not cold. Like, bro, it's cold. Just throw on a jacket, man. You're not Andy Reid.
Right.
Like, throw on a jacket.
Even Andy Reid throws on layers, with his frozen walrus mustache. It's crazy. But anyway, Zach Sealer, this was him, man's man. But he was asked what the Dolphins have to do to fix the label of not being a very tough team.
Shoot, I guess we got to prove it wrong. If people think that, we got to go out there and I don't think that's the case. I think we play physically up front. I think we play physically all around. I think we got to make sure we're showing that on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, listen, I would never accuse Zach Sealer of not being tough, but that was you know what the thing that was the worst about it, Solana, is not only that they lost, but then like you have the opponents afterwards being like, them boys were cold. Like Josh Jacobs is mocking you, McKinney's mocking you, and I'm like, man, that's so bad. That's so bad that the other team is not just saying, hey, that was a tough challenge. We knew that they were tough. We got the jump on them. But like, no, they wilted. They wilted as soon as they got out there.
Hey, but did you come away from that game saying, A, the cold is why they wilted, and B, that they're soft?
Yes.
Like, is that's how you came away from that game? Because truthfully, I didn't. I just came away from that game saying, yeah, this team's fraudulent. And I don't
that too.
I don't think they beat the Green Bay Packers in a dome. I don't think they win that type of game in a dome in perfect weather. Today it's like 68 degrees, 75 degrees. It's perfect outside. I just don't think this and look, this has been my point from the beginning of the season. I know it's easy to play the result. I realize that. But this has just been my point since the very beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
This team is good. They're not great. And over the last 2 years, they've shown you that. That's on record.
Totally fair.
And people, and Omar Kelly is a big proponent of this, blaming injuries and really just lumping everything under the fact that last year, Kansas City, impossible situation because they were injured. But I look at how this team got worse and didn't fill those holes from last year. And I just made it up in my mind, like this team is going to be good again, but they're not going to take the step further that everybody expected them to. And that, to me, the other day in Green Bay confirmed that. This is a good team, but they can't beat great teams. They just can't, especially not on the road.
I think that, I think that's the thing that adds to it. Like, yes, you may be right. They may not be good enough. But when I have the evidence of their own starting linebacker, my eyes, and the opponent also saying, hey, that team couldn't brave the elements. Yeah, I feel like I got to buy into that somewhat. Like it just, maybe it's not, maybe the game would have been closer. Maybe if it was in a dome, maybe the Dolphins can hang a little bit better. But yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. If I have all of these people who were first hand parties in this game telling me that, am I supposed to ignore that?
But Tobin, the narratives weren't that, Tyreek Hill can't play in the cold. I mean, the guy played for Kansas City. Like the narratives were Tua Tagovailoa can't play in the cold. That's the narrative.
You want to know? You want to know why I know that's not a thing?
Good in the second half. Like to me, I really don't understand that being the narrative after the game.
Dude,
can it be that Tua can't win in cold weather? Fine, but that he can't play well in cold weather? He showed you in the second half he can. So I'm not upset about that. I'm upset about the team as a whole in the first half looking like they're lost, getting punked in a game that defines their season. Malik Washington dropping a punt. The team, again, shooting themselves in the foot. They get the 3 and out, and then they give the Packers the ball right back. Then you get the ball back. You can't move it. You have 1st and 15s, 1st and 20s. It's a staple of Mike McDaniel's offense. You know you're going on the road. You don't make the adjustments to simplify the play calling, and then you're trembling on the sideline like a child waiting for the fireworks show in December at Disney World.
Right.
That is what's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, but people don't realize how long it takes to lose your superpowers of dealing with the cold being down here. It'll mess you up. When you live down here, Solana, it's like hell hot down here in the summer. It's why the advantage is always early in the season. And we're like a bunch of iguanas down here. It warps your sense of being able to brave the elements. Mike McDaniel is from Denver. All I needed to hear this week was Chop Robinson, a rookie. He's been here 1 minute, and he was like, "Rawr." That kid played in Maryland and Penn State. Like, he's telling you immediately, yeah, it was not fun. So I get it. I'm not saying it's the main reason, but it's a reason. And I'm tired of denying it. I'm tired of looking at the record being what it is. They'd be like, nah, it's nothing. All right, fine.
I'm not telling you it's nothing. I'm just saying, to me, the narrative going into Green Bay wasn't, hey, the Dolphins are this, the Dolphins are that. It was Tua Tagovailoa is 0-6 in cold weather games. Here are Tua Tagovailoa's numbers in cold weather games. And I thought in the second half, he proved to you he can play in cold weather. So I was just more frustrated.
The one when they were down 3 scores already?
Yeah. I'm not giving credit, for him padding his stats a little bit. It's like Bam Adebayo against the Boston Celtics a week ago. Yeah, the team's down 45 points. Here I come. Now all of a sudden I can make jumpers. So like I understand, Tobin. I'm not Tuanon on here telling you that we should praise Tua's performance. I'm just saying, to me, let's forget the cold weather crap and focus on the reality that this Dolphins team is a team that's going to beat up on teams like the Jets. Okay. They're going to get their face bashed in when they play a real contender.
But let me ask you this, okay?
Oh, you're hung up on this cold weather thing. Let's go.
I am. Because right, let's just say the Dolphins make the playoffs. Let's say they do it. And they got to go to Buffalo, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Any of these spots that's not Houston in the first round. That's not going to weigh on your decision about how much they're going to win or what their chances are?
It's not going to weigh on my decision because it's a cold weather scenario. You know what's going to weigh on my decision? The fact that all of those teams are better than the Dolphins and have been better than the Dolphins this entire season, and at every single position are literally better than the Miami Dolphins, other than wide receiver. I mean, that's what's going to weigh on my decision. You want to go to Baltimore, play on the road? Guess what? That team, top to bottom, is built and constructed better than you, especially in the trenches. You want to go to Buffalo? Well, we know what the situation is there. Josh Allen, your daddy. You want to go to Pittsburgh? That defense will torture you. I mean, they're just better teams. So fine, you want to say that the cold weather makes a difference? Okay, fine. It probably does.
Hold on. But you would agree. Hold on. You would agree a straight up game against Pittsburgh. I know they're physical, but straight up, the Dolphins have the better quarterback.
They do. Absolutely. Russ is coming out.
Russ is cooking, but this guy's been mocked. Like he's on a coupon deal. Like that's the facts. So you're telling me in a game where we have a franchise quarterback, all right, who you're harder on than I am, but you doesn't weigh on your decision at all about what it's going to be like playing in that city?
A little bit. You know what weighs on my decision more? TJ Watt coming to kill him. That's what weighs on my decision more.
Very scary, man.
The fact that the Steelers, the same team you're downplaying, have had an above 500 record for 18 years. The fact that they have a Super Bowl winning head coach. The fact that our head coach on the road in big time, primetime games can't get the play calls into his team, and we start every drive 1st and 20.
Do you want to hear Jalen Waddle, being asked about the Dolphins being a tough team?
Sure.
Here was Jalen Waddle asked about the narrative the Dolphins aren't tough. Here's what he had to say.
What about the bigger picture, though, that this is a speed team and not a tough team? You hear that a lot, and you heard it after Thursday night's game. What's your response?
I never heard it. I never heard that before.
That's a liar right there.
I kind of like that though. Like, you know what? I don't want to answer this question. Sorry, never heard of it.
Why? What do you mean you've never heard of it?
Get better questions, Hal.
It's not. It's a perfectly reasonable question, and he's a liar. I haven't. First of all, we all watched Hard Knocks. You telling me this Mike McDaniel's not sitting there? He's throwing snowballs at everybody at a meeting one time.
Bro, you know Mike McDaniel's a guy that's like screenshotting headlines, sending it to players. Like that's how he motivates them.
Oh yeah.
He's sent a couple of these. They're soft screenshots to the Dolphins a couple times. Everybody in that building knows what the deal is around the league. Every single person.
We'll take a break here on Gameday Uncensored. More to come. Back after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota
Back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM as we take you guys up until 1 o'clock. Miami Dolphins and Jets kicking off week 14 of the season. Dolphins 6-point favorites, Solana, at home. Not a lot of faith in the New York Jets, probably rightfully so. This has fluctuated a little. I saw it at 5.5 at one point this week, but it's kind of settled in there at 6 for this 1 o'clock kickoff at home. You know, this is, I think, definitely, like you said, this is definitely one of those games the Dolphins should handle, a team they should handle. The Jets are in disarray and basically are like, you know, I think they get eliminated officially today with a loss. So
yeah,
that'd be 14 straight seasons for them without making the playoffs. So, you know, the Dolphins
any concerns though by you? Like any concerns? Because I was watching a lot of video yesterday that the Jets had posted, and they do like a show where it's like basically everything you need to know to be ready for this week. And what they keep falling back on, all right, this is what they keep falling back on. 6 losses this year by 1 score or less. 6 of their 9 losses by 1 score or less. So they've been in these games, right? Like they had a lead against Seattle the entire game. Aaron Rodgers misses what would have been a game-clinching touchdown pass, just overthrew his receiver who was wide open in the end zone. Very next play, gets pressured, throws a pick 6 on like the 5-yard line, and it's taken back to the house, and then they end up losing the game. Like they against the Colts, should have beaten them. Like they have a lot of games this year where they should have won, but just these mistakes got in the way of them winning. And I guess you could say that about any team in the NFL, but like this also isn't a team that's just getting routed each and every week, is all I'm saying. So I know you look at the record, you look how bad Aaron Rodgers has been, and I'm with every Dolphins fan driving to the stadium right now saying this is going to be an easy victory. There's a reason why they're 6-point favorites. Dolphins have to have this game. Like, I'm with you. I'm there. But I'm also, you know, not willing to say this is going to be a laugher either. This is a still a really good Jets defense.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to it. It's definitely not a team that's deprived of all kind of talent, even though, you know,
it's not
some
the
of
Patriots, you know, like this isn't the Patriots that are coming to Hard Rock Stadium. And I'm not doing this because of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not. I know he's washed. Like
look,
that I know, but I still think this is a Jets defense that can keep them in games.
Here's what I would say. If they do lose today, if the Dolphins do lose today, you want to talk about all the job security stuff being back on the line for the Miami Dolphins? Because I think everybody's kind of accepted, all right, you know, Tua was out this season. Maybe they'll make the record look decent. Everybody's going to they'll tweak some things, but no one's really going to lose their job, right? I think that's kind of the scope they're in right now. But if you lose to the Jets with where the Jets are right now, record-wise, and where they've been, firing their coach, firing their GM, meddling owner, yeah, that's and just the genuine rivalry of it. Yeah, you're gonna piss off a lot of people if you don't pull this one off today, Solana.
I think you blow it up if you lose to the Jets today. Honestly.
Really? Just immediately.
I just like if you're Stephen Ross, you lose to this Jets team. I mean, I guess I was just making the argument that, you know, they're not a disaster, but this is your type of game. This is it. Sunday, 1 p.m., your house against a below 500 team. Perfect weather. Like this is your type of game.
Yep.
You can't lose to this team, especially given the fact that, you know, Tua's talking about chopping wood and Tua's talking about playoffs and McDaniel's talking about how the team's still committed to one goal, and they're going to come out and lose the Jets. I mean, I think that would have to be the sign where like, okay, yeah, this is just not going to work. It's just not.
Yeah, it's the if you were to tell me that, all right, the Dolphins' hopes of the playoffs is that you got to win out. But the first game you get to take on is the Jets, who are the biggest laughingstock in the league. Let's be fair. Nobody, maybe the Cowboys, even the Cowboys don't have as embarrassing a record as they do. And they lost their starting quarterback in Dak Prescott. So, yeah, you're probably talking about the biggest laughingstock in the league this year. If you lose to that team in your building, oh, dude, you want to talk about you want to talk about that phone will not stop ringing until maybe next Thursday of people just furious and wanting heads to roll from that.
I would be attentively tuned in to Gameday Uncensored post-game show with Dan Day. Let's just put it that way.
It would be insane. It would be insane. One guy that could prevent that, though, is our player to watch, who is Jonnu Smith. And our player to watch is brought to you by your Southern Lexus dealers. The Lexus December to Remember sales event is why you stay on the nice list. Find yours and get offers on select models, but only for a limited time now through January 2nd. Make it a December to Remember. This guy has been incredible this year. All the talk about where the season has gone and not being able to get the offense looking quite like what it was. Jonnu Smith has had no part of that. This guy has been putting up some numbers for the Miami Dolphins. Last week, 11 catches, 113 yards. The week before that, 11 catches, 87 yards and a touchdown. The week before that, 8 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. This guy has had an incredible run, Solana, and it's been impressive. This was Jonnu Smith on what has led to the great play from him this season. Here is the Dolphins tight end.
Just go out there, play free, play confident. You know what I mean? My favors allow me to know that I've been blessed with a gift that that can't go to waste. So it's got to be daily work put in. Whether that be me staying after practice, me going out there before practice, recovering my body. Rest is also a huge part of maintaining a high performance, because you're nothing without your body in this league, in any professional sport. So definitely got to take care of your body, but just keeping my mind right, man, and just coming up here every day, being joyful that this amazing opportunity I've been blessed with to play this game that I've loved, that I still am in love with, you know what I mean, and just go out there, be free, and be the best version of myself.
Preach, Jonnu. Preach.
You're so proud of him. You're so proud of him.
Man, I mean, my paws are all the way up. Hey, you know what, man? Who would have thought this little FIU program, founded in 2002, nobody ever showed them any love down here in South Florida. I mean, everybody wanted to talk about them when there was a fight at the Orange Bowl with them and the Canes, but nobody wanted to respect. Yeah, actually, nobody wanted to respect this FIU program. Not even when we had T.Y. Hilton, we were winning bowl games with Cristobal. It took for Butch Davis to beat the Hurricanes at what used to be the OB site, and now, who would have thought? They beat the Hurricanes, and then now, the best player on the Miami Dolphins for the past 4 weeks, an FIU Panther, baby. Let's go.
He's been tremendous.
He's
been tremendous.
And I'm a phony because I ripped them the first 5 weeks of the season.
So
I'm a total phony, but my paws are all the way up. No joke, Tobin. He's not just a security blanket for 2 anymore. I mean, they've obviously shown you the Jonnu Smith package, but every target that comes his way, he's bringing in. He's coming down with. He has been the most secure option in the offense outside of Devon Achane now for the past 4 to 5 weeks.
Well, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing after you spend the money they did on their receivers this past year, but he leads the team in catches. He's second in targets, only to Tyreek Hill. He is averaging basically the same average per catch as Tyreek Hill. He is only 6 yards away from Tyreek Hill on the season. Same amount of touchdowns. Each have 4 touchdowns. He's been tremendous.
Yeah. And one of Tyreek Hill's touchdowns, I mean, you want to talk about lucking into a touchdown in Green Bay? I mean, the ball landed in his lap. That shouldn't even count.
But he's been the few guys have come here and exceeded what you even thought they could be, and he has done that. It almost makes you wonder, like, what is he going to want next year as far as that's concerned, and where the Dolphins can spend on that receiving core. But he's been absolutely awesome. It's definitely been a rightful focus for the Dolphins, and it was interesting. You know what's funny about it? We mentioned the Tua safety blanket, but he really was kind of the safety blanket, even with the backups. Like they were starting to kind of, if they needed a safety valve to go to, they would go to Jonnu because there has been so much focus put on Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And he's a fun watch. Like he's a fun tight end. He's not like rumbling. You get the ball in his hands and he can absolutely take off.
Indy and New England, those were kind of like his breakout games where he started getting targets and he started showing you, okay, this is what I can bring to the offense. But yeah, I mean, the conversation about Tyreek and Waddle to me is a different one. You have the two most expensive decoys maybe in the history of the NFL. Like that is another conversation. I don't think it should take away from how well Jonnu Smith has produced this year for the Dolphins over the second half of their season.
Well, speaking of those expensive decoys, Tyreek Hill, this was him this week, asked about defenses taking him and Waddle out at all costs. Here was the cheetah.
If you really look at, the defenses that we play against, guys aren't really allowing, a deep shot, to the Miami Dolphins. Defenses are truly falling in love with playing cover two, defense against us. Like, don't care about nothing else. Don't care about the run game. Don't care about, nothing else. They just want to stop, 10 and 17 from, da-na-na. So at the end of the day, man, you just got to be a teammate. You got to do whatever, the team needs you to do in that moment. If that requires you to block, 30 times a game, it requires you to block. If it requires you, to run through the middle and open other guys up, then that's what it takes, man, because eventually it's all going to turn soon, man. Like, we play 17 games for a reason, and I feel like if we, continue to have the success that we've been having, which Tua has been playing lights out, defenses are going to change soon. It's going to be like, hey, we got to stop 2-8, we got to stop 3-1, we got to stop Jonnu from catching those quick passes, across the middle, because those guys are dangerous as well too.
Man. Sucks though. Kevin Harlan's on the call today. Like, I don't want it. I'd love to get one. He's got Hill.
Maybe that sparks it though, right? Like
maybe
all we need, just sprinkle in a little Kevin Harlan, and all of a sudden the cheetah's back to life on the offense.
Yeah, I mean, we had the big breakout game a couple weeks back with Jalen Waddle. He did have that. I mean, Waddle had that sick catch on the 2-point conversion last week.
Yeah.
So they're still making plays, but we certainly, as Cheetah, I think, puts it well, plays. I would like more of those. The classic Sports Center. Man, those were good. We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. When we come back, Tua Tagovailoa with a pretty interesting revelation. We'll get to that from the Dolphins QB coming up next.
Football coverage on
AM Miami, WPOW HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Once again, Miami is invaded by New Yorkers. This time, it's the Jets. They're here to take on the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium this afternoon. And there's been a lot of talk about the Dolphins' toughness, or lack thereof. Mike McDaniel is aware of that, and he says there's just one way to fix it.
Very aware that the narrative exists, and with absolute certainty, I know that the narrative will exist unless it changes. There's one way to change it, and that's winning a game against the New York Jets. And you know what? People still might not call you tough. Cool.
Zach Sealer agrees with Coach Mike.
I guess we got to prove it wrong. If people think that, we got to go out there and beat it. I don't think that's the case. I think we play physically up front. I think we play physically all around. I think we got to make sure we're showing that on Sunday.
Dolphins and Jets today, and we're on it. This is Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9, HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside my co-host Alejandro Solana, getting you ready for Week 14, Dolphins and Jets. True or false, Solana? Aaron Rodgers cares more about Art Basel than he does this game.
Yeah, he's Baselin, right? Like he has Art
yeah.
Basel written all over him, man.
He looks like he at one point in some time in the future, he's gonna have his own Art Basel exhibit, you know? Like
Right.
the finer works of Aaron Rodgers, of his paintings under ayahuasca.
Yeah. An ayahuasca exhibition by Aaron.
You have any interest in watching this Netflix documentary? I think I'm kind of in. I want to see what's going on in the Costa Rican rainforest.
No, I'm done with him. Like after he bailed on the darkness retreat early, I'm like, oh, he's a phony. Like, okay, you do ayahuasca. You're not the first one to do to experiment with some hallucinogenics or whatever. You know, like you're not the first one. You think you're the first NFL player to go out in the forest and take mushrooms? Like, no, you're not. So, okay, you want to be unique. You want to go on this darkness retreat. You want to spend 30 days in the dark. No contact with the outside world. Then commit, bro. Don't be a phony. Don't be soft.
You want to talk about things that are unfair in life? Think about poor Ricky Williams, who had to go flee to another continent because all he wanted to do was smoke a little weed. And now Aaron Rodgers is at one point celebrated because I won an MVP under ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah. Have you
This
talked
guy-
to Ricky about that? Because I know he's
I
on
have.
the show. Yeah.
I have. Yeah, he was. Ricky's he rolls with the punches, so chill on everything, not surprisingly. But yeah, we've talked about that multiple times about, can you believe that this guy? I remember the first time thinking about how crazy it was is because he was doing an interview. It was before he was even on the Jets. He was doing it with Aaron Andrews, like before a season, just explaining how he won the MVP on ayahuasca. And I was like, man, poor Ricky. Ricky had to go away just because everybody was getting mad at him over weed drug tests.
Ricky had to go on retreats to get away from like the hate he was getting. I was too young to remember like that time frame. Were Dolphins fans throwing hate at Ricky too? Like, what was the take Tobin?
What?
I don't genuinely. I don't remember. I was 5 years old, so I don't remember.
the thing was it happened like right before camp, and Jason Taylor was like coming out publicly ripping him about it. Yeah, it was crazy. They were furious with him. What do you mean, dude? Yeah, there was he was like public enemy number one when that happened.
So, but what was the take? Like, oh, just don't smoke weed, you drug addict. Like that was
Dude,
the take.
It was different times, dude. It was different times. It's crazy. But like you can think about now, go look at his statistics before and how many carries and how many times Dave Wanstack gave him the football. It was insane. Different times, man.
Why didn't he just flush the weed down the toilet like Mario Chalmers and Michael Beasley allegedly?
They got caught though.
Yeah.
They got caught at the rookie symposium.
Yeah, a little slap on the wrist at that point in the NBA.
Funny times, man. It is funny times. The Miami Dolphins, of course, didn't have Ricky Williams that year. That was a big. By the way, did you see this Nick Saban coming out this week talking about why do we let him do that? Why do we let him do that? How come no? It drives me insane how this bum could walk onto any television network and make it seem like it wasn't his fault. No accountability whatsoever as far as not that I wasn't a bad coach. No. I didn't scout the job correctly. What?
Did you see his new move as of yesterday? Because we don't like Nick Saban down here. We saw his new move. Dropped a couple curses on live TV. And all of a sudden, everybody's in love with him again.
I know.
Like, look, Nick Saban's been good this year, to be fair. Whether he's like on McAfee or he's been good. He's been good. But did you see the attention he's getting? Because he cursed 2 times yesterday with like the most non-curse word of all curse words, which I can't say because it's an FCC violation. I don't want to get fired. But it's literally like the least curse word you'll ever hear. A pope will use this word. And Nick Saban... Nick Saban drops it 2 times, and everybody's like, oh, he's so funny. Oh, Nick Saban's cursing on live TV. Like, they're getting duped by this guy. Everybody. All of America is getting duped by Nick Saban.
I think that's why he could walk into so many living rooms and just dupe people out of their kids going to his school, you know? I mean, he is a good salesman, but I'm just like, I'm not here for it. I'm very annoyed by it.
Hey, by the way, Tobin, really quickly, speaking of former Dolphins, what about this Reggie Bush? Just a blowtorch to Mike McDaniel on Instagram. What happened there?
That was weird to me. That was completely strange. Reggie Bush, for those who didn't see it, in the fallout of the Dolphins losing on Thanksgiving, Reggie Bush, former Miami Dolphins running back, probably had his best individual season with the Miami Dolphins under Tony Sparano. Reggie Bush just took a blowtorch. He commented on Instagram to a Stephen A. Smith rant where Stephen A. Smith was like saying he's done with the Dolphins. He's not going to trust him. And Reggie's just like, fire the coach. Never should have gotten the opportunity in the first place. And I was like, whoa. Like, not that I'm fine with him having his opinion. I'm not going to like rip Reggie Bush about it. I just was surprised that Reggie Bush had that opinion. I didn't expect Reggie Bush to be Instagram hot taker.
I have some theories. We know that Mike McDaniel may or may not steal somebody's girl, right? Like that's been well documented. We found that out a couple years ago on Thursday Night Football about how he was out and he told one of his players I was dancing with a girl, like, yo, that's my girl now. That's my girl. Ends up being his wife. Is it possible that Mike McDaniel slid into Kim Kardashian's DMs when Reggie Bush was dating her about 15 years ago, and Reggie Bush just has not let it go? Is that possible, Tobin?
No, I don't think so. No,
there's something deeper here than Reggie Bush just thinks Mike McDaniel sucks at coaching. Like, Reggie Bush is drunk on wine after eating a bunch of turkey, just ripping into this guy on the Instagram comments for no reason. Like, he's not that big of a Dolphins fan, is he? Where he's like, Doug from Plantation on Instagram asking for Chris Greer to get fired and Mike McDaniel to get fired. Like, there's something deeper there, bro. There has to be.
I would, maybe he's like a big flow guy. I don't know, dude. I'm a little miffed on it. I don't know if he's like come out with any follow-ups on it or what, but yeah, he said, fire the coach. Never should have had the opportunity. I forgot him sticking the landing. He sucks.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
bro.
just like, that's what?
there's something deeper here than just Reggie Bush still loves the Dolphins. I mean, the dude had a couple good seasons here, kind of revived his career. What was it, 2 years with the Dolphins? Him and Ricky were fun. There's no way this dude's a diehard Dolphin fan because of those 2 years. He played in pretty much every organization in the NFL. I'm telling you, we're going to find out at some point. Somebody's going to ask Reggie. There is something deeper here between Reggie and Mike McDaniel. There has to be.
It's very strange. It's very strange. I don't really have any because I feel like Reggie Bush would have loved having a coach like Mike McDaniel because I feel like he's the type of player Mike McDaniel would have loved to use. I'm flabbergasted by Solana. I really don't understand what was going on there. Maybe we'll ask Beasley and Omar Kelly if they have theories on it too. But yeah, that's crazy. Reggie Bush is taking a blowtorch to Mike McDaniel. We will take a break. We do want to get into those Tua comments that he had this week. Where he basically put the blame of the Dolphins record completely on his shoulders. We'll get to that coming up next here on Game Day Uncensored.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore
Let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Ed Morse has your back. Ed Morse Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click edmoresawgrasscadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Miami Dolphins getting set for the New York Jets as you guys are heading over to Hard Rock Stadium. Braving the Basel. I guess you guys are going before our Basel is there. Although
there's no traffic going to Miami Gardens. Come on, man. People are driving south away from Miami Gardens.
I don't know. I'll tell you a new thing that's going by. What it is like trying to get back on the turnpike now is all of a sudden a thing. I don't know when that became a thing, but like over the last 3 months, now trying to get back on the turnpike from south has become like this crazy whole ordeal. And they try and make you feel better because they put up a sign that says infrastructure. I'm like, that doesn't, I mean, great, thanks. That's going to be up there for 5 years? Anyway, we'll get to some keys to the game coming up in a bit here, which are always brought to you by Doral Hyundai. At Doral Hyundai, choose from over 1,300 new Hyundai miles in inventory, like the Tucson, the Sonata, and the Palisade. But remember, when it comes to Hyundai, the great deals are at Doral Hyundai. But before that, I want to get to this Tua cut because this was interesting. Tua this week was asked about the Dolphins' record of being 5-7. And this is what the Dolphins QB had to say about it. Fascinating answer from Uno. Here was Tua earlier in the week.
Very surprised. I don't think that shows the character of who we are as a team. Doesn't show the work that we've put in this offseason together. But, nobody else will say it but me. And I feel like this has a lot to do with myself, obviously putting myself in harm's way in the second game, going down, basically leaving my guys out to dry. That's what I would say. And anyone can have an opinion about like, it's football, it's this, it's that. I do take heart to that as well. And still don't want to do that to my guys again. So.
There you go. That was Tua earlier in the week. What'd you make of that cut, Solana?
I like the fact that, look, he's trying to take accountability, because at the end of the day, he understands that he got the extension, and that comes with the territory, I think, where you have to live up to a certain standard. And that goes for everybody, right? I don't think it's just Tua. I think it's everybody. But at the end of the day, in the NFL, the quarterback who gets paid the extension is going to be held to different standards than everybody else. And I think Tua knows that he hasn't lived up to that standard. But with that being said, he kind of says there, I don't think it's a reflection of who we are. And unfortunately for him, it's actually the perfect reflection of who they are. And it has been over the McDaniel era. And it sucks. None of us want that to be true. But it's just a reality. Obviously, Tua doesn't believe that. The team doesn't believe that. They can't, but it just is. It's a fact. That game against Green Bay was a perfect reflection, literally the most perfect reflection of who the Dolphins are. They're going to get you into a situation where they're going to make you believe. And then they're going to go into Green Bay and immediately be in a situation that they're behind. And then they're going to make you believe again before letting you down again. It was the perfect encapsulation of what being a Dolphins fan has been for 20 years. So I hate to break it to you, Tua, but that is who this team is.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's an interesting thing because if you look at the games that he missed and they finished 1-3, if the Dolphins, I think they probably would have finished over 500 if they had their quarterback in that stretch. I think that's fair based on the competition that they faced, which would have made their margin for error a little bit better. Maybe they're not as sloppy in the Arizona game. maybe that's not as big a deal. Turnovers was such a critical part of the Dolphins losing so many times in his absence. So I do think overall, I do agree. I think the record would have been better. The question is, with the way they lost to Buffalo twice, and the way they lost to Green Bay, would they still have been looked upon as a legitimate player in the league? That I think remains to be seen. But I do agree that the Dolphins wouldn't be here in a situation at Week 14 where they have to win 5 straight to even have a prayer at the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's no doubt. I don't think anybody is arguing the fact that if Tua had played at Seattle, if Tua had played at Indianapolis, if Tua had played that Tennessee game, they don't lose all 3 of those games. Do they win all 3? I don't know, but they don't lose all 3 of those games, Tobin. Certainly not at Indy, and certainly not at home against Tennessee. So, look, it's fair, right? And I don't think, it's necessarily Tua Tagovailoa's fault. Should he have gone down against Buffalo? I think we all agree yes. But the dude's a football player. He's trying to make a play, right?
Terrible decision by him.
It was, but he's trying to make a play. He's a football player. It happens. It sucks, but it happens. It's not his fault that Mike McDaniel and the general manager, the guys who are literally tasked with having a backup plan, break glass in case of emergency if your quarterback can't be available, had the absolute worst backup plan ever.
Yeah, we do have to get into that because it seems we can officially put the Skylar Thompson era in the grave. But we got to take a break. Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network. He will stop by the program. We'll talk a little bit about Tua's comments, this Jets matchup, and all things about your favorite football team with the Miami Dolphins reporter, our boy Adam Beasley. He'll join us next.
Football coverage on
60 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is game day, uncensored here on 560 WQAM. It's that time of the show where we go to Hard Rock Stadium. Our guy, Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network, joins us here on the program. What's going on, Bees? How are you, man?
I am great. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
We're good, buddy. We'll bring you into what we were talking about earlier this hour, which is a random one, I give you, but what'd you make of Reggie Bush being so harsh on Mike McDaniel? Did you see that where Reggie Bush came out and was basically like, should fire the coach, never should have gotten the job, he sucks?
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I don't even know if he has a relationship with Mike McDaniel. He's never met the guy. It's totally out of left field. It's wild. I love it when ex-players take shots. I do it. I mean, I'm a sports writer. I like drama. I like controversy. So I wish I had an explanation for that. I mean, Reggie was here, 3 seasons, 2-3 seasons, wasn't here for particularly long, but I guess he still follows the Miami Dolphins and wishes them well, or just really doesn't like Mike McDaniel. That was wild to me.
Yeah, that to me is the funny part, Bees, because okay, he was here 2 years, good couple of years, by the way, but that turned him into a Dolphins lifer where he's dug in plantation, ripping these guys how we do on Instagram. My theories are something deeper there. Like McDaniel DM'd a girl, Kim Kardashian, 15 years ago. I don't know. I just feel like Tobin's not buying it, but I feel like there's something deeper here once we start to peel back the layers.
Who dislikes Mike McDaniel? I mean, you can have issues with the way that he coaches at times, and certainly he's made some questionable decisions, but he seems like a generally good dude. I've never heard a single person that's like, oh, man, Mike McDaniel's an a-hole. That's wild to me.
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush is that guy, and you can get to the bottom of that story, you got a Pulitzer coming your way.
Very strange. All right, we were talking earlier, too, about Tua. Tua had these comments this week about with the Dolphins record. He basically took the blame for it because of putting himself in harm's way. Very accountable for the quarterback. What did you make of those comments from him?
I think it shows great leadership. I think there's a kernel of truth to that. But to me, the broader issue is this. Your defense has let you down. They're 4-4 with Tua as their quarterback. And their defense let you down 3 of those losses. And you could even maybe consider the 4th. When the Bills game, they couldn't really stop anyone either. Although Tua's turnovers didn't help. But yeah, no, the games that Tua's played that they've lost have not been because of Tua, it's because of their defense. Now you can say, should they have beaten Tennessee? Sure. Should they have beaten Seattle? Absolutely. Like that. I know the score was kind of lopsided. Look at how that game went. The Seahawks did not play well in that game at all. The Dolphins just gift wrapped in that win. So, I think there's some truth to it, but there's big, broader issues. You don't get to 5-7 just because your quarterback misses 4 games. I mean, you've got some broader issues going on with this team that if they lose today, guys, things could get really, really dicey here in Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of made the joke earlier, blow it up if they lose today, Bees, but part of me is not really joking. When you look at the Jets, though, look, I know Aaron Rodgers is washed. Everybody thinks that, his time in the NFL is done. The franchise is in disarray, but Tobin and I were talking about it earlier. This is still a team that's only lost 1-score games 6 times this year. So 9 of their losses have been close. They're not getting rocked by every single team. And defensively, I mean, there's still, some impressive players. I know offense, it's bad, but defensively, they can still keep their team in football games, even if they're on the road in a 1 p.m. time slot, which is the Dolphins' favorite time slot to play in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I think you still got to beat good teams, and you still got to do it when it counts the most. And what they showed Thanksgiving night was every single criticism we have had of them, every single narrative, bubbled up at the wrong time. Self-inflicted wounds, just killed himself, dropping a punt. Those penalties they had early on, they put them so far behind they couldn't get back in. Couldn't handle the cold, missed tackles, all these things, bad special teams plays, all these things that we've talked about, not rising to the moment on prime time, losing badly to a bad team. As non-competitive as they were, look, if they would have gone up there and lost, 28-24, and it was a shootout, and Jordan Love got the better of Tua because they're playing at home. The weather wasn't great, but they really showed up. I would feel, hey, maybe they can run the table. After what I saw on Thursday night, I have no confidence they've got 5 more wins in it. Guys, they might not have 4 more wins in it. This could be a sub-500 team, a team that goes 8-9, because, we'll see what the kind of shape the Niners are when they get here. But there's no guarantee they sweep the Jets. There's not. There's no guarantee they beat the Browns. Like, the Browns right now are probably one of the 8 or 9 best teams in the AFC. Like, there's no guarantee you're going to beat them on the road in what's going to be a cold game. So, yeah, all these things we're talking about, if you're a good team, it doesn't come down to this stuff, right? It doesn't come down to having to run the table and beat the Niners and beat the Texans on the road and do all these things. You're playing for seeding now. And, yeah, maybe you got to win your last 2 games of the season to make sure you're in the dance. What is today, December 8th? They're at December 8th, and there's 0 margin for error. That's not a sign of a good team at all.
So what does it mean, though, Bees, if okay, they don't win out? And I'm with you, right? Like, there's no reason to believe that they are going to win 5 in a row. But if they don't win out, they don't get to 10 wins this season. That's a serious regression from year 1 and 2, which were playoff wins and double-digit win seasons for Mike McDaniel. And, okay, we'll use the caveat of Tua going out for 4 games, I guess. But, I mean, we know the decision-making there wasn't great. Like, what does it mean for this organization if they can't even get to 10 wins?
Well, they haven't had a losing record since Flo's first year. Like, they haven't had a losing record since they had to tank, okay? It means that this entire rebuild is disaster. I mean, it does. Now, again, with the caveat your quarterback got hurt, but I'm sorry, they knew their quarterback was injury prone going into the season, and their backup plan was Skylar Thompson. So it's not like they don't get a pass on Tua getting hurt. They knew Tua had a chance to get injured because he's been injured every year but one since I think his freshman year of college. So I'm not giving them a pass on that either. But no, it's like you think about how much money and draft picks, and they're so old, man. Their roster is old, and they look old in Green Bay. They looked a step slower than the Packers. They looked certainly a step less physical than the Packers. And they look like a team that was a bunch of – I mean, again, I know – there's talent in this team. I know they've got injuries. We'll see maybe Bradley Chubb next week. As a caveat, if they lose this week, what is your rationale for playing Chubb at all this year? Like, what is your rationale for putting him at risk and having to worry about him being available for the start of the 2025 season? It's bad, man. Like, there's no explaining away how bad this year has been. And we got a sense of it from the first game of the season because, I mean, no offense, Tobin, but the Jaguars are garbage. I mean, they're a really bad team. And they needed a miracle, peanut punch by Javon Holland and a last-second field goal to win that game. They didn't have a lead, I don't think, till the Patriots game. Like, in a game, they did not play with the lead, I don't think, until, was it week 6, whatever it was, week 5, week 6. That, to me, is, again, a sign of a team that's deeply flawed in a lot of ways, built the wrong way, and they need – I don't know what the step forward is. I think the step forward is you start trading guys and you start getting younger and you move assets for assets. And that's the way you do it. Because if you think you can just run these guys back and Tua stays healthy and you'll be fine, I mean, they're going to have a coaching search in 12 months.
No offense taken, by the way. My Jags era ended with them hiring Urban Meyer.
Oh, I love Tobin still being linked to the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially how that franchise looks right now. Oh, I love it.
2 of the best guys on that team were Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell. I mean, they anchored one of the best defenses in the league. Yeah. I couldn't believe Calais Campbell was still be doing it at this level this many years later after a 17 AFC championship run. But it's crazy. It's this is where they're at. Raheem Mostert dealing with this hip thing. Bees is has this kind of just been like the season from hell from him? Like this is a record breaker this year, and just like. Not only seems like he lost a job, but maybe part of it is just 32 years old and he's a running back. What have you kind of made big picture wise of Mostert's season?
it's been an incredible regression from last year. I mean, last year he set the record for most touchdowns by a Dolphin in the team's 50 some odd year history. And to see what he's gone through this year, he had that chest injury early on, right? That I think that almost kept him on a month. And when he came back, it just didn't seem right. And the fumbles were terrible. He owned up to that, obviously. And now this hip injury that's been bothering him as well. He's a guy that I think that if they lose today, there might be a bunch of guys that go on IR and get surgery and are done. I think he's on that list. I think Tyreek's on that list. I don't know if Tehran, he's been dragging his leg behind him for months now. It seems like maybe he's done. And then you mentioned Calais. It sounds like that there's been some sort of arrangement that if they're out of it, they let him go ring chase with someone else. I would 100% support that. But guys, to me, this entire thing feels like flailing since the trade deadline. They, 2-6 going to the trade deadline. It just lost back-to-back games. Bills and Cardinals, I think it was, in some order. I'm sorry, my memory's escaping me. And I wrote at the time, guys, blow it up. This is the opportunity. Your trade value for Tyreek will never be higher going forward than it is right now, because I think he just had a small amount of base salary owed this year, and then not a ton for a receiver his caliber next year, maybe $25 million or something. So some team could have gotten him basically for 2 years for like $28 million or something. That's a great value for a player like Tyreek. You could have gotten a first-round draft pick. Now they're going to go into this offseason. My guess is that they'll absolutely entertain trade offers. Whatever they get is not going to be nearly close enough. And they did all this to double down on a team that had very little chance of making the playoffs. And they had to be perfect. And, yeah, we didn't see the Broncos being as good as they were. Maybe they thought the Broncos would regress and they'd be 9-8, and 9-8 would be good enough to get in. Bo Nix is pretty good, man. I've eaten some crow about quarterbacks in my time, and Bo Nix is on that list. They look like they got something in that guy. And so, yeah, I think it's going to take at least 10 wins to get in the AFC, which means they've got to win the rest of the games. I just don't think they do it. So, yeah, do I think they missed an opportunity 2 months ago or a month ago, whenever it was, the trade deadline, to get younger, to get assets, to get cap lighter because they got cap issues going into next year? I do. They believed, for I don't know what reason, maybe they thought job security, all this, that they had to see this through this year, and it turned out to be a mistake.
Well, when you look at today, though, Bees, offensive line play wasn't great. 5 sacks against the Green Bay Packers. I was looking at some of the statistics, and I mean, the interior of that line, and I'm not talking about Aaron Brewer in the center. I'm talking about the guard play specifically has not been good, but no Austin Jackson, we know that, on IR, and Tehran dealing with that knee injury, didn't really practice at all this week. The Jets have somebody in Will McDonald who has 10 sacks this year. Like, they've done a really good job at getting to the quarterback. Is there concern today with that offensive line that, it's going to be a struggle for them? Because I think, the Dolphins have to put up points today, and we're all hoping for Kevin Harlan to be giving us some iconic Tyreek Hill calls for the first time in who knows how long. Like what's your concern level at?
It's high. I mean, look, their offensive line's got issues for sure. I don't think that's their biggest issue. I just think the biggest issue is what we mentioned, that this team is just built the wrong way. But it is crazy to me, guys, that they are the worst team, 32nd out of 32 since McDaniel took over in 2022 on 3rd and 2 and less and 4th and 2 and less. Crazy. Short yardage. And it's not just that they're bad. They're 50%, and the next worst team's like 57% efficiency. So, and the list of teams that they're with are the Patriots, the Browns, all these horrendous teams that, they over the last 3 years have been really bad teams. And the Dolphins, because they had the cheat code of throwing deep to Tyreek, could paper over that stuff. When that cheat code goes away and, they've got to grind out tough yards on the ground, they can't do it. So they go to these, these kind of gimmicky plays, these end arounds and, misdirections and all this to get a foot. Like the contrast between them and what the Lions did on Thursday night could not be more stark, because you have a apples to apples comparison. Dolphins just played the Packers. The Packers kicked their asses in the trenches, absolutely kicked their asses. And then you saw the Lions with, maybe the 1 seed on the line, right? They don't even need the foot, but they're so confident that they can get the foot to run out the clock and kick the field goal that they do it. I mean, if my guess is if the Dolphins make a coaching change this year, which I don't think they do, if they do make a coaching change this year, that's the kind of person you always the pendulum always swings hard back the other way. Mike Vrabel is kind of a name that you would think of, a tough, hard-nosed, physical kind of coach. Those Titans teams under Vrabel, like teams were hurt the next week because they were so physical. Is that the best way forward for Tua Tagovailoa? I don't know. I feel like he thrives in an offense like this. But if this offense doesn't get it done and they take on the and I asked this to McDaniel this week, is like, is toughness, trickle down or trickle up, right? Is it the players give the team a tough identity, or does the coach give the players the tough mentality to be that kind of physical team? And I think he kind of suggested maybe a little bit both. We're seeing a stark contrast. Like caveman Dan Campbell's got it figured out, right? And he knows, like they talked about building through the trenches when this rebuild started in 2019. He never really did it. And the best players they drafted, they let go. Robert Hunt and Christian Wilkins. Those are the best homegrown trench players they've had. They let go. And we're seeing the results of not making an early concerted effort to get those guys re-signed because they're just getting out physical by the best teams. And I think that's not a new phenomenon. It's something we've seen for the last 3 years.
If only they had somebody Manly who was in their organization that they could have had this tone setting at some point,
I will say this. Dan Campbell wasn't Dan Campbell then. Okay, he wasn't. Like he
didn't he start with Oklahoma drill? He seems like he was kind of the same meathead.
Oh, might have been the same meathead, but he's learned from Sean Payton how to be a football coach. Like he was a position coach then that really was that meathead kind of guy. He's learned to be a head coach from Sean Payton. And you go back and look at his first couple years at Detroit, they weren't super overwhelming either. So yeah,
well, didn't the Dolphins beat the Mike McDaniel's first year? I think they won in Detroit that season. But it is funny. You think about like the two sets of the organization, and everybody will always think quarterback, but you go back to the Waddle draft and like how that team was celebrating because Penei Sewell fell to them. My producer Robbie at the time was a huge Penei Sewell fan, and that's like the identity of their team is Penei Sewell, and the identity of the Dolphins is the two Corvettes on the outside. Like they have their two speed guys, and it's kind of reflective upon where they are right now.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if that continues. The question, I don't know if that continues to be the identity of this team beyond this year, because if I'm Steve Ross, I gave you literally everything you asked for. Everything you asked for. I'm the number one owner in the league as voted by the players in facilities and food and everything you could ask for. Contracts are huge. You want to trade away first-round picks to go get Bradley Chubb and Tyreek Hill? Go for it. Anything you want. And here they are 5-7, and they got to win out and get some help even after winning out to make the playoffs. He's not going to be pleased. So I do think there is going to be some hard conversations. To me, the question is this: A, do they make a change in general manager? Chris Greer's been here for quarter century. Do they finally make a change? If so, is it someone who has a completely different bent from Mike McDaniel and you've got a square peg round hole situation for a year and if it doesn't work, the head coach goes? Or is it someone that Mike wants? Whatever happens, they've got to figure out a different way to win. There's no way. I'm sorry. Dan Marino's teams weren't super physical. Like they were still a wide open team in the 80s and early 90s when they were winning a bunch of games. They didn't go 0 forever in Buffalo. Okay, they found a way to win. It wasn't cool in Florida in August in 1987. Okay, it wasn't. You can't blame. Hey, you live in South Florida. Your blood gets thin. You can't handle the cold. It is unique to this team. Like it is unique to the makeup of this team, and they've got to do some real soul searching to figure out why.
Hey, at least the Skylar Thompson era seems to be done. Bees, we can all rejoice.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising that he's still on the roster. I thought that, maybe they would have moved on from him by now. But, yeah, he is clearly Snoop Huntley is their guy going forward. But to be honest, they got to make wholesale changes to that room. Tua's going to be back next year, but they need to get a real backup quarterback in 2025.
Adam Beasley, Pro Football Network. Go follow his work. Always appreciate him joining us here on the program. Enjoy the game today, man.
All right, guys.
There you go. Adam Beasley. Always appreciate him stopping by the program. We will take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. More to come here on the show. Back after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall
Miami, WPOW HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Yep, just like many New Yorkers, the Jets are coming south in December. They're going to be at Hard Rock Stadium today to play the Dolphins. Aaron Rodgers is at the helm for the Jets, but which Aaron Rodgers are we going to see? Hall of Fame Aaron or 2024 Aaron? Well, regardless, Mike McDaniel offers high praise.
He's a very, very difficult quarterback to go against when it's run pass even. You know, when you don't know if it's run or pass and have to defend both, he's an elite ball thrower.
Good or bad, Chop Robinson is excited to play against Rodgers.
My older brother, he was actually a Green Bay fan and he loved Aaron Rodgers, so I'm excited to go against him, excited to go against the Jets, excited to go against my former teammate, and just when the game comes, just excited to play.
Let's face it, the Dolphins need this game. Yeah, they're still alive for a playoff spot, and getting a win is absolutely key. We're here to tee up the X's and the O's to see if they can. Time for Game Day, Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans, with Tobin and Solana, Omar and Beasley. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day, Uncensored here on 560 WQAM, which of course brought to you in part by your South Florida Chevy dealers. You're looking for more power, capability, and technology. With Chevy trucks, you're ready for anything. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. Miami Dolphins, of course, welcoming in the New York Jets, 3-9 on the season. They have basically already set a detonator to their rebuild with firing their head coach. They fired their GM. Their owner is apparently there was one report at one point this year where he was going to bench Aaron Rodgers for Tyrod Taylor. It's been an absolute disaster over there, which has made Jet Ups very pleasing watching this year, Solana.
It's the most disappointing team in the NFL by a wide margin. The only team that comes close are the Dallas Cowboys, but they're in disarray. It's not dysfunctional in Dallas. I mean, with Jerry, it always kind of is. The Jets went all in on Aaron Rodgers a year ago. They went all in on him. He played 4 snaps, tore his Achilles. Then we had to wait literally the rest of last year and an entire offseason and listen to everybody go, well, when Aaron Rodgers comes back, when he's healthy, this Jets team, you had people picking them to win the AFC, the AFC East or the AFC, your boy on Jet Up was, all for them to be the biggest laughing stock in the NFL and for Aaron Rodgers to look like the worst quarterback maybe we've seen in a very long time with that type of expectations. I am loving it. I'm loving every single second of it, Tobin.
It has been fun to watch for sure. Mike McDaniel, and this was one of those things this year. Remember, he throws Mike Williams under the bus, Aaron Rodgers, and they go and get Devontae Adams. They have the little drive-by in the McAfee show. And this was Mike McDaniel earlier in the week on that duo, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and saying, they have incredible chemistry with one another.
They have some of the all-time best clips and have done it week 1, week 17, playoffs. They've done it a ton. So that working relationship goes a long way in football. So I think you have to be that much more sound in your technique and fundamentals and rely on your teammates
to own their leverage, and for if you're an outside leverage player to rely on the player that has inside leverage that's zoning, or vice versa. Those things are paramount. Otherwise, they'll take advantage of any sort of indecision with convicted play. So it's something that you have to prepare competitive advantage that inherently they would have unless you are on your P's and Q's and ready to defend them.
Mike McDaniel mentioned the balance this week that this team has. They're obviously got a big blow to that this week because Breece Hall is not going to be good to go. He's been dealing with a knee injury, which obviously can't be feeling great if they're coming off the bye and they're still dealing with that. But, that's going to put even more of the onus on Aaron Rodgers, which you would think would give the Dolphins, the capability of feeling like this is a bit of a one-dimensional New York Jets team they're going at. Certainly, we saw the struggles they had last week with Josh Jacobs and allowing little plays turning into chunk plays, Solana. So I do like the idea that this is a bit more of a wounded animal the Dolphins can go against in this Jets offense.
Yeah, but I would say, Josh Jacobs actually only rushed for, I think, under 3 yards per carry. It wasn't Josh Jacobs breaking off for big runs. They did a decent job at containing him. It was just the big play threat still worked for the Packers on like jet sweeps and different things like that. So, with Breece Hall out, this is still a Jets team that's going to try to run the football. Like that's what they're going to do. And more so because the Dolphins this year haven't proven that they can consistently stop the run. Like they just haven't. So I think, Aaron Rodgers can't move the football. So they have no other options, I mean, that's what they're going to do with Braylon Allen. I am a little worried about this game from the standpoint, Tobin, that, if the Jets keep it close late, I don't want to be on the wrong end of like the first good Aaron Rodgers game in 2 months. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm worried about. Are the Dolphins going to be on the wrong end of one of like Aaron Rodgers' good games this year? And I know he hasn't had many. I think there was a Thursday night football game earlier in the season where the Jets, I don't remember who they beat. Maybe it was the Patriots, but they blew them out. And everybody's like, okay, Jets are 2-1. And he looked decent in that game. And then there was the game against Buffalo where he almost threw for 300 yards. And everybody's like, okay, all right, they hung with Buffalo. But then it's just been downhill since then. I don't want to be on the wrong end of one of these, look, Aaron Rodgers, there's some hope for next year type of games.
Yeah, I don't think there is though, dude. I don't know.
Okay, I hope not. I hope not. But that's what makes me nervous about this because, like, what if he still has one more of those games in him? You think Aaron Rodgers is going to lose out the rest of the season? Maybe. I hope so. But what if he still has one more of these games left in him? And it's a divisional game. Weird things happen in these types of settings. That's what worries me because
but nothing's weird has happened so far divisionally. Like the Dolphins have taken care of the Patriots in their games. They lost to the Bills. I mean, the hierarchy's kind of been what it is. There hasn't been the surprise one so far for the Dolphins. I think, this is one of those. And by the way, I appreciate Leroy chiming in and who has to just let me know at all turns on. Not me. I called the Jets sucking. Because he hates Aaron Rodgers and he refuses putting the word hates Aaron Rodgers on there. But he thank you, buddy. We're glad that you chimed in on my text. I'm glad thank you for listening. But no, I don't know, man. I would be sorely disappointed if the Dolphins you're getting Kendall Fuller back too. You're getting your starting corner opposite Jalen Ramsey. You're getting some reinforcements there. It would be, it would be really, really disappointing if you blew this one. And I don't think that based on what he's gone through, dude, I mean, these are his games. Like the last 4 Aaron Rodgers games, thrown for 211, 151, 184, and 185. Like this guy is not lighting it up like this is 2013 anymore.
I'm with you, but I could also go through a stretch where he threw for 244, 294, 276, and the Jets lost all of those games, but they were all one-score losses to Minnesota, to Buffalo, and to New England. So I'm not here advocating that Aaron Rodgers is the same guy we saw 4 years ago in Green Bay. It's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just telling you, I'm a little skirmish at the fact that what if he does have one more game?
That's what. But the only fear that you have
exactly
right now is
what it is.
You're scared of embarrassment.
Exactly.
I don't think you're scared of a team that you don't think the Dolphins are truly better than. I think
no.
In your heart of hearts, you know this Jets team's a disaster. They're also banged up and have 2 of their young stars out.
Yep.
And you're just scared of the embarrassment, which I get it. The Dolphins over their years have not been above embarrassing their fan base. But I do think your first instincts were correct on this, where it's like, hey, it's 1:00 against a subpar team in their building. This is typically where the Finns eat. Like this is where they go and they flourish. And I think they should. Earlier in the week, John Olbrook, excuse me, the Jets interim head coach gave some praise to Tua Tagovailoa. Here is what the Brickman had to say.
It's the same Tua that we just become accustomed to. He's this guy with like elite accuracy. He's a problem solver. He's a quick processor. He really reminds me of playing against Drew Brees all these years. You know, a guy that makes fast decisions. He gets to the second or third read immediately. And I think the offense is really, it's built around his strengths because everything is rhythm based with their offense, and he's throwing to spots. And obviously he's got some pretty decent guys to throw to at the same time. So it's going to be a great challenge for our back end. It's going to be a great challenge for because you have to affect Tua to affect his ability to pass as far as the pass rush and getting him off the spot. So it's a combination of the back end of the front working together.
It is Jeff Holbrook. Who cares? The Brick Man, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I thought it was Jeff, but you passionately went to John, and I'm like, huh? Have I got?
Yeah, because I labeled it John, and I was like, I don't think it was John, and so it doesn't matter. The point is, the Brick Man is nervous about Tua, calls him the next Drew Brees. You know, I bet he probably wishes he had the next Drew Brees, but he doesn't. You know, he's got an old washed quarterback who, you know, basically got his guy fired, and he's like, all right, I guess I'll ride along with his interim job. You know, that's how it goes. He's got a very interesting beard too, Olbrook. He kind of looks like Santa in the off season.
Right. It's just it's not as light. It's a little darker. So it's got the grays in there. But then around November, December, that's when the whites really start coming in for Saint Nick. Right? Is that what you're saying? It's just gray.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
I am a little scared though. Will McDonald, dude, scares the hell out of me.
You're not the only one. There's a lot of Dolphin fans in the chat right now on our who are like, you know, what if Rodgers has one of those days? What if he dials it up? I get you. Because here's the thing: if you do lose this game, yeah, I think all of the job security stuff then gets to flare up again because it's kind of your last safety on this season for everybody who wants to keep their jobs is basically Tua took the blame bullet for everybody this week, right? Where he tells you the record is my fault. I got hurt. It's like, okay, that's kind of the ultimate get out of jail free card if Tua is going to take the blame because he does have the job security. He's not going anywhere. And that's fine. And if the Dolphins finish with a decent record, I got a hard time believing anyone's going to get fired. And that includes Chris Greer. But if they have if they stumble and they lose to the Jets, man, that feels like that opens up all discussions once again for Stephen Ross. You know, he doesn't want to be looking. He wants to be sitting there waddling in his luxury box. He does not want to peek across either. I don't know if he has binoculars and looks across at Woody Johnson or if Woody Johnson's in an adjacent box with his stupid chain on. You know, you don't want him looking over there and seeing Woody Johnson celebrate in his building.
All the Jets fans who are still coming down here, even though their team sucks, walking out of Hard Rock celebrating. That would be that would be a disaster. It would. It would.
Yeah, it would be a rough one. We'll take a look at this Dolphins playoff schedule, where the Dolphins have to go, and you know who they have to keep an eye on. It's going to be a
playoff schedule. You said no.
Yeah,
playoff schedule.
Playoff picture.
Playoff picture. Okay,
yeah,
I was going to say there's no playoff schedule, Tobin.
No. But I just meant the schedules of where everybody's at, like everybody who's in this race and where the Dolphins are at to try and get into the Dolphins playoff. Pretty much starts today. if they want to get into the playoffs. So we'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. Back after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore
Uncensored. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. We're streaming live on YouTube and Twitch, the channel Miami 560 WQAM. You guys can get in on the chat there via YouTube or Twitch. Omar Kelly from the Miami Herald. Omar will join us at the top of next hour, and we'll be able to dive into more of this as the Miami Dolphins are getting set for the Jets to roll into their building. You see they got the aqua fully painted end zone, Solana. Does that excite you when you see the Dolphins? You know that Kane's home schedule is up because they can go full out on painting the end zones.
Yeah, I used to like the orange end zones though. Those were always my favorite. Orange end zones.
I'd be down for some orange jerseys coming back next year. I'd be down for that.
People were very upset with the creamsicles on Thursday Night Football back in like
bad.
2016, 2015.
Those are bad.
Yeah, those did suck. But there's like, I have, it was circulating the rounds the other day. Dolphins beating Tom Brady and the New England Patriots back in 2004. I was actually at that game rocking the orange jerseys. Like there's something special when the Dolphins wear those orange jerseys.
I would be down for that. I would be down for the Dolphins bringing back the orange jerseys. Listen, as much as I love the throwbacks, and I love the throwbacks, haven't had much luck in them lately. For this year. Year on the Thursday night throwback games. So maybe they got to switch it up a little bit, On the other end of it, though, if we're doing jersey talk, the Heat in the Blood Reds, undefeated.
Yeah.
Going much better than the Black Heat culture ones, which I liked better than the Blood Reds. But you know what?
Do you really? Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the Blood Red. I really am, and I like the fact that the court looks a little bit different too. They got the scripture taking off the painted area.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even notice that, but you know what? That's spot on. Heat will be back in action tonight. Big game against the Cavaliers. We got a big double dip here of sports, and we're also, of course, watching the Hurricanes, who are inevitably going to be banished to the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah, it's looking like December 26th, I think I saw, which is a Saturday. Do I have that right? 3:30 p.m. No, that can't be right. I don't know. Some point in December.
I think it might be like, the 26th or the 20. Who cares? It's the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is basically, I think, the new Cheez-It Bowl, which is the new Citrus Bowl. They're going to Orlando again. That's what it's seeming like, and that's disappointing to me. It was funny. I remember I went to that random Hilton that they were staying at, and I walk in. I'm like, why is there all this Cheez-It paraphernalia? Canes were staying there. I was on a lazy river with De'Aaron King. I won't allow Cam Ward to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. I'm going to advise him not to do that.
Well, what if it's against Colorado and Shedeur Sanders, and they both agree to play? Would that pique your interest?
Yes, that would definitely pique my interest.
Okay.
But
that's the only scenario.
But you want to know what it should be? All right, here's what the real stake should be, because they'll do the Heisman before that. Is Heisman should be on the line. So if Travis Hunter wins the Heisman, then he's got to put it up against Cam Ward.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
That's a game right there.
What does Cam Ward put up? Like a Ferrari or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right. I like that.
We'll find something of stakes that I'm sure interests Travis Hunter.
And the only silver lining of this Dabo Swinney coming in and stealing the ACC is that Alabama right now might get bounced, right? Is that the only silver lining?
Mm-hmm. No, that's the only silver lining. Although, if you want to talk about like levels of deplorable of people I dislike, Alabama or Dabo Swinney, neck and neck. So I can't say that I'm a huge fan of the. I would have liked at least Rhett Lashley, to be able to TCB. What are you gonna do? The Canes should take care of their own business.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Dolphins, this is what they got to do to take care of their own business, Solana. So here's the playoff picture right now for the Dolphins. They got the Jets, they visit Houston, San Francisco, at Cleveland, and at the Jets to end the season. Which of those worry you the most? Is it the at Cleveland against Jameis Winston, who's having snow angels deliver him from pick sixes?
No, it's at Houston, just because I have a feeling the Dolphins are going to win this football game, right? So now, okay, all of a sudden, they improve their playoff percentage goes up, right? Chances to make the playoff goes up. It's at 10% on NFL.com currently. If they win today, it goes up to 14%. And the Colts are 6-7. They're on a bye. You have the same record as them. I don't trust the Colts to win out. So you feel good about the Dolphins ending in a higher seed than the Indianapolis Colts, even though the Colts have an easier schedule down the stretch. So that leads us to next week on the road against a playoff team. We're right back in this very same position that we know the Dolphins have let us down time and time again, and we still have to come on here, and all of us have to believe that they're finally going to get over that hump. So to me, before you can even look at the Browns, it's Houston. It's the playoff team standing in your way, the only playoff team you'll meet down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, it is interesting because you look at the rest of the picture for everybody, and first of all, there's a ton of teams on buys this week, so this is a week for the Dolphins to just take care of business, keep pace, because the Broncos, Colts, and Ravens and Texans are all on buys this week. So the Dolphins will be getting a fresh Texans team when they take them on. But we mentioned this a couple of weeks back, but Indy, who has the tie break over the Dolphins, which is very annoying, they got Denver coming back, and then they finish with Tennessee, the Giants, and the Jaguars. I know everybody kind of looks and they're like, oh, bad team. They're not that great. They'll slip up. I don't know, dude. Jacksonville just put Trevor Lawrence on IR, so that means we got to rely on McCorkle. You're talking, I don't even know if Tommy Cutlets is back. I don't really care about that, but it's either Tommy Cutlets or Drew Lock.
It's Drew
and
Lock,
then Tennessee.
Lock.
That's as bad a quarterback trio as you could end a season with.
Yeah, but I don't trust the Colts to win out. I just don't. Even if they were to somehow beat the Broncos, you think they're going to win their final 4 games of the regular season, Tobin? I'm not buying it. I'm just not.
The Broncos' schedule to end is kind of tough. Like the Broncos,
it just depends. It depends because they have the Colts, they have the Chargers, at the Bengals, and then at home against the Chiefs. Now, are the Bengals? They're out of it, right? They're I don't think mathematically eliminated, but they're eliminated. They're not making the playoffs. Are they going to bench your boy Joe Burrow? I would imagine, it's a possibility just because why risk having him out there if the season's over? Like, hey, this season sucked for them. It is what it is. We'll move on to next year. Is Jamar Chase going to play? Like, all those factors come into play. And then Kansas City, that game could end up mattering for Kansas City. Buffalo is right on their tail. KC wants home field advantage for the entire playoffs. So if Kansas City is in a situation where they can rest Mahomes, they probably will. But week 18, there's more likely a situation where it's Buffalo and KC both needing that victory to lock up the 1 seed.
Right. I also feel like Kansas City, because they usually do get the 1 seed, like I feel like they don't love having the 2 weeks off. So that you have to keep that into account. But Joe Burrow, it's an interesting question with him because you mentioned the Jamar Chase thing. Jamar Chase obviously famously is looking for a deal.
Yeah.
Would Joe Burrow leave him out in the cold? I feel like he wants to get at least Jamar Chase's numbers. I feel like as a quarterback, a teammate, a guy you have an affinity for, I feel like he's going to ride that out with him. I don't feel like Joe Burrow is going to just say, sorry, Jamar.
But it's not up to Joe Burrow. It's the Bengals.
It's up to Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow just bought a Batmobile. Yeah, you can't just bench Joe Burrow for no reason.
Of course you can. Hey, our franchise quarterback, our season's done. We don't want to risk you getting injured. By the way, you're kind of injury prone, so we're going to bench you. You're not suiting up this week. Even if you want to get your boy the bag, sorry, but take your Batmobile and go sit at home while we finish out this horrid season.
Dolphin Kane says, "Do we need to make 10% T-shirts like when we made 3% T-shirts for the Heat against the Celtics?"
Yeah.
Potentially, I don't know. We got to. I think Solana's right. I think no T-shirts until they beat the Texans.
Mm-hmm. No T-shirts, please. No T-shirts. And we see what the hell the Colts are doing and the Broncos are doing. The interesting one is the Ravens. Tobin, they're 8-5. Look, they're going to make the playoffs, but they keep losing. Like they just lose. They lose to everybody. It's crazy.
I thought they looked like a Super Bowl team like 10 weeks into the season. I was like, that. I don't think anybody beats them because they're like a battering ram. I didn't think anybody was able to stop them. And yeah, they've kind of slipped up here.
But people are still picking them to win the Super Bowl because they're the most balanced team. They have a ton of losses. Like the Bills are doing what they're supposed to do. They beat everybody. The Chiefs, somehow, some way, they keep winning games as well. The Ravens are the one. Yeah. The Ravens are the one where you're like, okay, they're really good. We know they're the most balanced offensive team in the league. We know, but they keep losing.
And I think Jameis Winston's going to probably beat the Steelers today because that's just what Jameis Winston. He's just too much of a wild card. You can't account for it. Can't account for it. I don't know. We'll keep a peek on it, but it all starts today with the Dolphins taking on the Jets. We'll take a break. We have our actives and inactives. We'll give you who's in, who's out for your Miami Dolphins. Some surprises on this list. We'll tell you about that coming up next here on Game Day Uncensored.
Text WQAM on the Kendall
Uncensored. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM. FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Ed Morse has your back. Ed Morse Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click edmoresawgrasscadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is game day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. Take you guys up until this 1 o'clock kick from Hard Rock Stadium. Dolphins getting set for the New York Jets. Dan Day, remind the people producing for us today, when is your post-game coverage today for the people?
I'm going to get started a little early because I'm expecting the Dolphins to finish things a little bit early today. So 3:45 to 4:45, leading in to preheat with one Alejandro Solana.
There you go. Boots on the ground at the building from the Heat's house today. Kaseya Center, Heat and Cavs. One of the biggest games of the Heat season coming on up against a good Cavaliers team, both coming off the second night of a back-to-back. Cavs won in Charlotte last night. Big night from Evan Mobley. But let us get to the actives and actives here, brought to you by JM Lexus. And South Florida, when you think football, you think Miami Dolphins, and you think Miami Hurricanes. But when you think Lexus, you think JM Lexus. Right now, they got it all for fall. Solana, here's what we got here today. The biggest question in this one was, of course, Teron Armstead. And he is active today for the Miami Dolphins.
Good news. Good news.
Definitely good news. You have also inactive. Here's what we got. Ethan Bonner, inactive. We knew about Raheem Mostert, inactive. Also, Andrew Meyer and Jack Stoll, the tight end. And finally, River Craycraft, inactive for today's game.
Can we just take a minute here to talk about Ethan Bonner?
Sure.
All training camp, Tobin. And last year, Tyreek doesn't want to race Ethan Bonner, and we all fall into this trap of, white cornerback with crazy speed. There's rumors that he might actually be faster than Waddle, and he might be faster than Devon Achane. And we all get mesmerized by the white cornerback who's really fast, right? But okay,
as we should.
Dude was undrafted, and it was going to take a year. Okay, off-season comes, training camp starts, and you have guys like Jalen Waddle praising this guy and saying that he's one of the more impressive players every single day at camp, and the coaching staff is praising this guy. And we all fall in love with Ethan Bonner for a second straight year. And for a second straight year, this guy can't get on the field. And it's a different defensive coordinator, so I don't want to hear about Vic Fangio. Cam Smith went to IR. Kader Kohu is dealing with a back injury for the last 2 weeks.
He's back,
and Ethan Bonner, he's playing today, I know. But Ethan Bonner can't get a snap in the NFL, so I don't want to hear about Ethan Bonner anymore.
Why?
Because
Why
Dolphins
are you
fans did this.
him?
No. This isn't about Ethan Bonner.
It is about Ethan Bonner.
No, he's a practice squad player, and there's nothing wrong with that. Congrats. That's a cool achievement, man. But Dolphins fans used him all offseason, and the Dolphins themselves used him all offseason as like some sort of bargaining chip to why this defense should be respected, why our secondary has a ton of depth. And I'm not exactly picking apart the secondary. Like, they've gone through some pretty tough injuries, but it starts with Jalen Ramsey, and it pretty much ends with Jalen Ramsey. Kendall Fuller's been I love Javon Holland, but the guy hasn't been great this year. Jordan Poyer, he shouldn't even be on the team anymore. And Cam Smith, after a whole year of a circus going on with him and Fangio, got on the field and looked like a deer in headlights 99% of the time. And guess what? You still couldn't get Ethan Bonner on the field.
I don't like
so
what
I don't want to hear. I don't want
what you're doing.
I don't want to do another season. I'm done with the Ethan Bonner talk.
You don't know that you're done. He's a young man. First of all, I don't understand your frustration with
this.
He's
a young man.
He's a young man. Like I don't understand what the big
15 years old.
I
haven't
heard you be this passionate about Cam Smith. He's a second round pick. He's an undrafted cornerback. He's trying to break barriers. It's hard enough. You can't get past that prejudice people have.
Serious?
He's a white cornerback, dude.
Who cares if he's a white cornerback or not? You break barriers, the prejudice.
He is.
What are we doing here?
He's breaking barriers. You know, a lot of people probably told him he's trying to stand his ground because he has the dream of being a cornerback. And everybody's probably told him to be either a safety or beef up to be a linebacker because he's intangibles. And you're sitting here doing it again. Like, just because a lot of people praised him doesn't mean that the project that the bun has to be out of the oven. You might want to let it just, cook a little bit more. Don't forget also, there's already been an undrafted gem this year in Storm Duck who came out of nowhere. So it has been kind of a beefed up position. When you're undrafted, you have second round picks that have to play. You have another undrafted guy in Storm Duck. It's a pretty packed crew there right now.
See, you're the problem.
I'm not the problem. I think you're the problem.
Because you love to yell out intangibles. You're the problem there, where you're still holding out hope for something that's obvious. The guy can't play in the National Football League as a cornerback. Like, it's just obvious. He's not going to be a starter.
You don't
He's
know
not
that.
going to be a starter. He can't get on the field when we have a lack of depth there because of the amount of injuries.
I don't think we do have a lack of depth.
And for 2 years, I had to hear about Ethan Bonner. Whoa, I mean, look, if Kendall Fuller goes down, don't worry about it. Ethan Bonner, we got beat out by another undrafted rookie. And Cam Smith, by the way, who you're saying I wasn't that tough on, I told you Jalen Ramsey was full of BS when he talked about Cam Smith being a dog. Guy got on the field and wasn't a dog. He got torn up to shreds in his first 3 games.
He also seems to be
just as tough as on Cam Smith as it had been on Ethan Bonner.
You have not been this angry about anybody at cornerback this year. You continue to be like, this is what your move is, okay? And you did the same thing with your paws up buddy, Jonnu Smith, where you just mock everybody because you buy into all this hype on Twitter and you're like, what about the Jonnu Smith package? And then what do you know? He comes around. So now you're doing it. You've moved on now to Ethan Bonner and you're lashing out. You sound like Frog Boy, where he's lashing out at Drew Smith and he can't understand why Spo is keeping Drew Smith around. And lo and behold, what do you know? Drew Smith gets out there, he gets an opportunity. He's fantastic. So you don't know that Ethan Bonner couldn't be fantastic. It's just a packed crew.
Don't you dare compare me to Frog Boy, who didn't even know who Drew Smith was and just randomly decided to take out Drew Smith. I've given Ethan Bonner 2 years, Tobin, 2 full seasons. It's not like I'm out on this guy week 1 because he's white. I've given him 2 full years, a journey. And you're acting like I'm picking on a 17-year-old in high school. He's a professional for 2 years now, and I'm not even mad at him. And it's not the Twitter people; it's the team. The
so
team
you're mad at
told
Jalen
me
Waddle.
about Ethan Bonner. Yeah, I am. I am mad at Jalen Waddle. I am.
All right. I mean,
Telling
like,
me
I
that
don't.
Nobody has made more strides than Ethan Bonner. He can't get on the field. What are we doing? They don't even have to put him on the inactive list. We know he's inactive. Can't play.
You're not allowed to celebrate when he comes out here and he has interceptions in this one game. Like, because
and the Jonnu Smith thing was totally different, okay? Because it was Mike McDaniel who told us about the Jonnu Smith package, and it was Tua who talked about how excited he is, and Tyreek about how excited they are about Jonnu Smith. And the guy was a ghost for the first 4 weeks. And again, I wasn't mad at Jonnu Smith. I didn't deny his talents. We've seen it year after year in the NFL. You know who I was mad at? The alleged offensive guru who couldn't get him the football.
I just don't understand why you're so mad at Ethan Bonner. The guy's minding his own business, just being a fringe NFL player, and you have these this hostility towards him because he's not Jason Sehorn because you don't believe in the white cornerback, and it's fine.
Now, turn this into a race thing. Play the race card, Tobin.
I'm not playing. I mean, like it definitely feels like it falls a little bit into that. Like you never believed it in the first place.
He could be black. He could be white. He could be any race. All right, he could be any race. The bottom line is the guy can't play in football in the National Football League. He just can't. He can't. And you're still mesmerized.
Remains to be seen.
Because of his intangibles. You're mesmerized. And remains to be seen what? We have a lack of depth at cornerback.
Why do
and
you
he
keep
can't
saying
get
that?
minutes.
They don't have a lack of depth at cornerback.
They don't?
No.
Cam Smith is on IR.
Yeah.
Kendall Fuller didn't play the last 3 games.
But Cam Smith did.
But he was on IR. And
no,
he
dude,
couldn't get on
hold
the field.
You don't think let's be real about it. Let's just say Cam Smith and Ethan Bonner kind of samesies, okay?
Mhm.
You don't think the second round pick is going to play over 2 undrafted guys?
Well, he
Like,
didn't
you're-
last
you're
year.
ask-
He didn't
you're
last
ask-
year, Tobin.
Okay,
He didn't
but
last year.
you're asking a situation where a second round pick is so bad that they're going to have not 1 but 2 undrafted guys play above him. There's no way, dude.
All right, we'll do this again next year. I can't wait.
I mean,
Ethan Bonner to be the darling of training camp again next year, and you're gonna buy into it because you buy into all these fluff pieces that Jalen Ramsey and Jalen Waddle are selling you. You're a sucker for when somebody inside the locker room talks good about a guy who is a darling in the locker room. And guess what? Guess how many games he's gonna play next year? Another donut. That's how many games. 0 games. Watch,
Right,
you'll see.
maybe we'll see. Yeah, we will see. But like, you know what? I'm not going to be like crazy about it. The guy's an undrafted free agent. Who cares? Like, you know, he's supposed to be a nice story. That's what he's supposed to be.
Okay, all right.
I haven't given this same energy to a bust. You're giving this hostile rant on poor Ethan Bonner. You know, he's just trying.
It's not
to
about Ethan Bonner. I can't express that enough. It's not about Ethan Bonner, the guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm happy for him. I am. He's on an NFL roster. I'm happy for him. Mad at everybody else. Lied to me about Ethan Bonner.
Why would they lie to you? Like, I don't understand. What's their motivation to lie about
Go ask Jalen Waddle.
So you want me to go ask Jalen Waddle, why did you lie to me about Ethan Bonner?
How could he be the most impressive player in training camp? Can't get on the field. How? Explain that to me, Toby.
I did explain it to you. They have a star cornerback. They have another guy that they brought in Kendall Fuller. They have Cater Co, who's been a starter for 2 years. Right. Storm Duck was their undrafted darling, and so that's your explanation. And then they had a second round pick investment into Cam Smith. What are they going to do? Not play him for 2 years?
Fangs would have.
Maybe. I don't know.
Fangs would have. Are you upset that the Eagles defense looks really good right now? Like Dan Campbell is 12-1 with the Lions.
Yep.
Just infuriating. And he's going for it on 4th and short when he doesn't have to. Like, he's just rubbing it in our faces. And then Vic Fangio and Brian Flores are taking over the league and are en route for big-time playoff runs.
I'm not upset about it because Fangs was soft. He didn't want to live down here because he needs to be close to mommy, and that's fine. I mean, grow up at some point and get away from it. That's fine. I mean, you know, good for Vic Fangio. You know, you can get away from under her old lady skirt for a little bit. He couldn't handle it. He needs to be in Philadelphia. I mean, the idea that Vic Fangio sucks as a coach is kind of crazy. Like, they paid him oodles of money. They gave him autonomy over the defense. Like, we knew the guy was a good coach. He apparently just hated it down here and probably was annoyed by the rambling young hip coach. So I would say the Fangio thing doesn't really bother me. I guess what would be annoying was there too much whining from the players about it? And that appears to be a fair criticism, because I wouldn't say, I mean, Ramsey's been awesome this year, but I would say like Javon Holland, though he's been playing through injuries, hasn't exactly like flourished under Anthony Weaver.
Yeah. By the way, no Raheem Mostert today.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we see Jeff Wilson? Like, is that a possibility?
Maybe on like a 3rd and 1 at some point, but he's not going to get a ton of carries. I'd be pretty surprised by that. I would say it's probably going to be the Devon Achane and Jalen Wright show.
Yeah.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah. Jeff Wilson kind of fell off, right? Like,
surprisingly, I was, and I think the thing that is tough for the Dolphins, if you want to talk about whiffs, right?
Yeah.
Like, we look back to training camp, and it's unfortunate because Chris Brooks was a good player in preseason. He just got hurt. He took that nasty hit. So they decided to stick with Jeff Wilson, who's a Mike McDaniel guy, and lo and behold, who's running over the Dolphins in the midst of Thanksgiving? Chris Brooks.
Chris Brooks, yeah, of course.
Of course he is.
Marcus May catching interceptions for the Chargers.
There's not a lot of good arguments to say the Dolphins aren't cursed. There's really not. Like maybe if you don't believe in curses, okay, that's a policy by you. But I have a lot of evidence that would say otherwise.
Don't worry, Tobin. Ethan Bonner is going to save the curse. Don't worry, he's going to lift it.
I bet you anything if Ethan Bonner goes somewhere else, he is going to be the next Jason Sehorn. Like when he goes to the Eagles, if he I don't know what an undrafted contract status is, but if he's free to go anywhere next year, trust me when I tell you, this kid will flourish somewhere else. Wow, you were really fast. They didn't play you? It's like, nah. They played Cam Smith and somebody called Quack Quack. Omar Kelly from the Miami Herald. He joins us next.
Football coverage.
WHD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Once again, Miami is invaded by New Yorkers. This time, it's the Jets. They're here to take on the Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium this afternoon. And there's been a lot of talk about the Dolphins' toughness, or lack thereof. Mike McDaniel is aware of that, and he says there's just one way to fix it.
Very aware that the narrative exists, and with absolute certainty, I know that the narrative will exist unless it changes. There's one way to change it, and that's winning a game against the New York Jets. And you know what? People still might not call you tough. Cool.
Zach Sealer agrees with Coach Mike.
I guess we got to prove it wrong. If people think that, we got to go out there and beat it. I don't think that's the case. I think we play physically up front. I think we play physically all around. I think we got to make sure we're showing that on Sunday.
Dolphins and Jets today, and we're on it. This is Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans. On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Ed Morse has your back. Ed Morse Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click edmoresawgrasscadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here on 560 WQAM. It's that time. Let's go out to the guest line and talk to Miami Dolphins columnist from the Miami Herald, our guy Omar Kelly, joining us from Hard Rock Stadium. Hello, Omar.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Well, let me tell you, Omar, this Solana has been lashing out the entire show today. The dude is a coward. He's afraid that we're going to get vintage Aaron Rodgers today, and for some reason just took a blowtorch to Ethan Bonner for the last segment. I don't really understand it.
It's the Basil hangover. That's what it is. It's, you know, he probably was out on these streets, probably tried to do some VIP lines. They didn't let him in. He said Hockman and Crowder show, and you know, life just it didn't help. It didn't help.
I meant to text you, Omar, if you got any coupons or something to get me in, any free VIP access, because I know you're still out in these streets, man. I'm far removed.
Yeah. I was actually at Tootsie's last night, and I got to say this on the record, man. Tootsie's, they've fallen off on the wings. The lemon pepper,
wow.
Yeah, this is I used to put them in the top 5 of wings in South Florida. They're going to fall out. I'm not even sure they're top 15 right now.
Wow, that's big news there, Tobin. Like Omar breaking.
Yeah, we got to get Tootsie's to address the wing situation here.
Tootsie's wings, much like Aaron Rodgers, just not the same.
Yep. No. You know what? That's a great correlation because both of their games have fallen off a cliff.
What do you think? Like, do you buy into Solana's concerns at all? Is there any concern that the Dolphins defense, which is of course coming off a very not impressive performance on Thanksgiving, that Aaron Rodgers could carve him up, give him the business on a day like today, or do you feel like this is prime for a bounce back against them?
You know what? I don't worry about this game too much because the Jets' strengths play into Miami's strengths. I mean, they got Devontae Adams and they got Williams. But if you look at it, the strength of this Dolphins defense is their secondary. They've had a top 10 defense pretty much all season without any sacks, without any turnovers. So what are they doing well? Well, they're covering well. They can't even stop the run. So you're playing, and you get Kendall Fuller back. So you have Kader Kohu. So you're playing into the strengths of what the Miami Dolphins team does, and so I don't pretty much worry about that. And then on the flip side, my hope is that even without Raheem Mostert, the Dolphins are able to run the ball effectively and successfully because, to me, if you can't get that run game going, all this playoff talk and all this 10 wins talk, I'm not even sure you're going to get a winning record in the season if you cannot get this run game going. 2.96 yards per carry for the last month, that is not acceptable.
Omar, I know, Teron's going to go today, which is good news. And I understand long-term, past today, establishing the run is extremely important, and I'm with you. But when you look at this matchup today, I've mentioned, the Jets pass rushers a couple times today. I believe I read yesterday that they have the most sacks in the NFL per dropbacks out of anybody in the league. Will McDonald has 10 sacks. We know Quinnen Williams is really good. Like, they can still put pressure on the quarterback.
Yes.
And if the Dolphins can't run today, that means, Tua is going to be required to go win this football game for Miami. Any concerns with, the Jets getting to Tua and keeping that from happening?
I don't think so unless we're seeing Miami trailing late. When you look at this offense and you look at Tua's game, he gets the ball out of his hands so quickly. Now, am I worried about one of these guards or center struggling against Quentin Williams? I absolutely am. The Jets do have a good defensive line. But I think you can counteract that by running the ball effectively. The Jets have struggled defending the run. They're going to be playing without C.J. Mosley yet again. This is a game and a great opportunity for you to. You're at home. You should be able to work on establishing the run and proving that you are and can be a physical team. We'll see if they can do that. I don't have a good feeling about it just because you're battling so many injuries on the offensive line. Kendall Lamb is playing with an elbow injury. He was already struggling as Austin Jackson's replacement. You got Rob and Liam, who are pretty much weak links of this team. Yes, they're starters, but how many teams in the NFL would they be starters for? I would struggle to say probably 5 right now. But you got to see what you have, and you got to try to maximize this ground game because if you cannot run the ball effectively, you're never going to open up the big plays. And as we've seen, have we seen one big play completion this year? Have we seen one 40-yard bomb from Tua?
No.
Yeah.
Only week one against Jacksonville.
No, that wasn't even a 40-yard bomb. That was pretty much a drag route that Tyreek just turned upfield and beat the defender.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of the passing game, Jonnu Smith, you spoke about, you sung his praises coming into the season, and obviously he's had a tremendous season. How much do you think of it is just that everybody's so focused on Cheetah and Waddle, and so he's reaping the benefits, or how much of it is he's just awesome, and the Dolphins have kind of been looking for this third option, and Tua likes having that safety valve?
I think it's absolutely predicated on how teams are playing the Miami Dolphins. They have absolutely put a lid ajar over the top of this defense, but when you're the NFL's biggest play producing offense for the last 2 years, teams don't want to get embarrassed. So everybody's playing two safety high against Miami. I think that the Patriots were probably the only team that didn't play two safety high in the second game, and they really paid for it. I believe that was a game that Jalen Waddle had a breakout performance. But, everybody is giving them Jonnu Smith and giving them the dump downs to Achane. They'd rather you take that than just have your face beat in with Tyreek and Jalen.
Hey, Omar.
Doesn't mean that Jonnu isn't good, because I think he's giving you some run after catch plays. He kind of had a slow start to the season, but for a guy to be leading the team in receptions at this point, despite having a slow start to the season, that's pretty impressive. And I think he's having a Pro Bowl caliber season. I would love to see, and I know he wants that. And the Dolphins probably will be able to give him position and opportunity to do it.
Omar, for the fourth week in a row, I'd just like to extend my deepest apologies to you for doubting Jonnu Smith. That's on me. I shouldn't have doubted my fellow FIU graduate, but that's on me, and I apologize.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. I still haven't been proven right on Raheem Mostert, and now the inactivity because of allegedly the hip injury. I really am at this point where I believe a lot of this stuff. Yeah. The hip was fine. The hip was fine last week, and I guess maybe it it's accumulated and flared up on him, and that can happen with injuries. That happens with age. But after he suffered the hip injury, he's like, yeah, no, it's not an issue. It's fine.
So is there like a sneaky riff from the BFFs now? Like are McDaniel and Raheem rats up a ship off each other?
No, you know what? Mike addressed what's going on with Raheem on Friday and basically said, I know I'm going to be able to count on him big down the stretch. I think Raheem is frustrated. That's clear. He's working. He's trying to get out of this. I think he's not in the doghouse anymore. It's just a matter of he probably hasn't practiced well. And in all honesty and transparency, if we're going to talk about being the worst short yardage team in the NFL for the last 3 years, which they've been, Jeff Wilson would help you with that. Not to say that Raheem wouldn't help you with that, but I'm excited and curious to see what the options are with Jalen Wright. Not necessarily Jalen Wright, but Jeff Wilson. I like Jalen Wright. I just don't think he's this miracle player that a lot of Dolphin fans think he is. And I do think that Jeff Wilson can help you in getting those tough physical short yardage plays.
There is something ironic, though, isn't there, Omar? That Jeff Wilson Jr. in a cold weather game, guy who's kind of known for, physical running, isn't available. But a week later, 1 p.m., 67 degrees or whatever the hell it is in Miami Gardens right now, in a game you feel like you're going to be able to just go play your finesse football. Now, all of a sudden, Jeff Wilson Jr. is here.
They have the one room that I have a lot of confidence in is the running back room. They're all supportive of one another. They don't have egos. They're competitive, but they're brothers. So I've always said this about Mike McDaniel in this regime. They do their game day, game plan, roster availability based on how guys practice during the week. So if River Craycraft is not active, trust me, River Craycraft looked like trash this week. If Ethan Bonner hasn't played, that's because Ethan Bonner's getting tore up from the floor up on the looks team every single week, or is not contributing on special teams. So I don't sit here and say, oh, this is unfair to this guy or that guy. And while I don't watch all of practice now, the one thing history tells me is Mike McDaniel bases everything on how you perform in practice. They have trackers on you that track your speed, that track how many steps you're taking, that track how many miles you've run. And if Raheem Mostert did not do well on that tracker, I promise you, he's not going to play during the week, which is probably what situation we see right now.
So I'm assuming the Dolphins do take care of business and beat the Jets. What do you think is the future of Chubb? Like, do you think this is a comeback for Houston thing? Do they extend this thing throughout the whole window? How far off do you think Chubb is if they do remain in it?
Mike McDaniel kind of hinted that it was a Friday decision, even though we knew he was lying. Mike is a stickler for be extra cautious when it comes to injuries. I think that Chubb could potentially be active against Houston, if not definitely the following week. They like you to go 1 week without 1 week of practice, see how your body handles it, and then the next week we'll adjust and see how you perform, see how you do, and if you're clear to practice that week. So I think it's probably definitely going to be Houston. But I got to admit, I was a little surprised because they have need. I mean, there's clear and evidence. They're only the Falcons have less sacks than the Miami Dolphins this year. That they need pass rushing and they need edge setting. Chubb can help you with both, even if he's on a strict 15 snap count. Chubb can help you with both. But this team and this coaching staff, I support them for that because they're going to be extra cautious as opposed to putting guys out there when maybe they're 70%.
Omar, big picture here. Do the Dolphins need to win 10 games?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to have a chance at the playoffs, you absolutely know.
Well, forget the playoffs, though. Omar, forget the playoffs because I don't know.
No.
I don't know if that's under their control. Like, even if they win out, there's no guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs. I'm talking about big picture.
I think if they get to 10, there's no guarantee, but I think if they get to 10, they'll be in.
Okay.
But getting to 10 is fantasy land, fantasy talk, especially the way they're playing. You know, December football is December football. You're going to lose a player per game. That's just the reality of it. Their bodies are not meant to play this many NFL games. And even though, you know, and all it takes is one player to really just throw off your entire season. You know, that's what happened to Miami last year. Nobody ever evaluates that or gives it credit, but you know, that's what happened. But I think this is a failure of a season if they don't get to a winning record. Yes, I know we had higher expectations, but the season derailed on us. If they don't get to a winning record, I think you got to reevaluate and reassess a lot of things. And the starting point is the general manager. I wrote a column in the Herald earlier this week. I'm going to retweet it out. At some point, Steve Ross and Tom McGarthy will have to sit there, no matter what happens this season, even if they get to 10 wins and go play Kansas City or Buffalo or the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs and get their face kicked in, which we all know they would, on the road. What are we doing here? Where are we going? What are we building? Why would we keep things status quo when you know what you built is not good enough to get the job done in terms of what needs to be done? So how do you assess that? How do you change that? The only way to change that is to change the guy who's in charge of the football operations and have a new person build an entirely new staff with an entirely different mindset. I'm not saying necessarily fire Mike McDaniel because I know who this owner is, and he's not going to change the head coach and the GM at the same time, even though he did it in 2019. It wasn't GM, but it was Mike Tannenbaum and Adam Gase who got fired at the same time. But if we keep running this back and keep transferring money from daddy's one credit card to another, like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Like, and is this really healthy?
You think that the Dolphins will also ask Mike Tannenbaum for his advice, like the Jets are, on who to hire next?
Oh, you know what? I respect the Jets for what they're doing because they know that Mike Tannenbaum's connected. Hell, I would have hired Rick Spielman. Rick Spielman's on the same committee that's searching, that's helping them with their search. I think there is no shame in people who do not know football and people who do not have those connections going out there and using a consultant who does have football, knows the right questions to ask, help them in that process. And Bill people don't realize this, but Bill Parcells has been pulling strings around here even since he's left, like for 7 years, because he's the only person that Steve Ross out there knows how to trust, knows that he can trust. So yeah, Woody Johnson trusts Mike Tannenbaum. Props to him, you know. And I think Mike Tannenbaum's a smart individual. I think he can identify and coaches, and I like him on TV. And I think what he's built with the 33rd team, you know, is phenomenal. Hell, we had an opportunity to partner with them when I ran I Am Athlete, and Brandon Marshall wouldn't listen to me. I was like, these people are going to take over sports community, and they have. The 33rd team is an excellent product. But yeah, shit. I mean, if I'm the Jets, Rick Spielman has did a good job in Minnesota. You know, I wouldn't run from that. And I have a hard time. You know, everybody always wants the new, young, sexy name. Look at how all of these new, young, sexy GMs have done, whether it's for the Giants or Chicago or Tennessee or Atlanta. Atlanta's pretty all right. Atlanta's okay, but these guys are out here struggling. You know, so I definitely wouldn't mind going the retread route. If you told me Rick Spielman's coming back here to run the Dolphins, I'd probably say, all right, I'm in.
Omar Kelly, Miami Herald. Go check out his work. Thanks, man.
All right, guys.
There you go. We'll take a break.
You didn't like that, huh? You didn't like.
We're up against it. I don't have a whole thing to get into a Mike Tannenbaum. I had a very snarky Mike Tannenbaum now as a 33rd team to ruin their salary cap. Like, you know, but it's all right. We don't need to get into it. Another day. We'll get to more. And listen, if the Dolphins lose today, we will be talking Tannenbaum guaranteed with Omar next week.
Yep,
we can debate.
100%.
We can spend the entire 20 minutes with Omar just debating if Mike Tannenbaum is trustworthy. If the Dolphins lose, because what else are we going to talk about? But until then, we hopefully will be focusing on them taking care of business against the Jets. We will take a break and find out what action to get in on with our Porpoise props coming up next here on Game Day Uncensored.
WQAM on the Kendall Toyota Tech.
Sports WQAM FM 99.9 HD2 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Brought to you by South Florida Lexus dealers and the Lexus RX, the luxury SUV for those who never want to lose their edge. Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where you lease your vehicle, bring it to Edmore Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all a part of being backed by Morse. Click EdmoreSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Take you guys up till this 1 o'clock kick from Hard Rock Stadium, Dolphins and Jets. It is that time on the show where we like to get in on the action. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for our Porpoise Props.
Go. It's time for...
I don't know about you, but that looked like money.
Porpoise Props.
Hopefully you didn't jinx us.
Props.
Porpoise Props sponsored by Hard Rock Bet. Hard Rock, roll with us. All right, I'm going to try and grow up here, Solana, because I like the big numbers. I like the big odds on things.
Uh-huh.
And I'm struggling with what to do because I just keep sinking myself further into debt with Julian Hill.
Right. Well, I want to start there. Are you going to bet Julian Hill anytime touchdown today?
Well, here's my conundrum. Do I bet him to score an anytime touchdown at plus 1,000, pot committed, or do I go multiple touchdowns from Jonnu Smith at plus 1,200?
Ooh. Okay. That is interesting.
Yes. Jalen Waddle also at multiple touchdowns at plus 1,200.
Multiple touchdowns is... Oof. I mean, I'm happy with him catching touchdown, getting 6, but if Tobin, I think if there was one player I'm gonna put money on to catch multiple touchdowns, it's Devon Achane.
Well, that's why he's got the lowest multi-TD number.
Right. Yeah, I don't even think it's worth taking a flyer on. And I love Jonnu right now. I'm leading the Jonnu Smith brigade, have been all season, truthfully. But I don't know. 2 touchdowns that's a tough ask. I think you're better off. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I think you're better off going Julian Hill anytime touchdown.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk me off of it. I thought you were going to talk me into it. I thought you would have liked that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's been the Dolphins' best red zone target either this year. Like, he's been the Dolphins' best target, period, over the past month, but he's not eating in the red zone and dominating in the red zone.
True. True. But I could picture, almost a Raiders-like touchdown from him where just coverage is completely broken again and he's just skipping willy-nilly. I just thought, I was looking at multi-touchdowns. I was like, wow, that's a pretty juicy number for a guy who's on a real hot streak. Plus 1,200 for 2 TDs. All right. Solana says no. Tyreek Hill's plus 850. Is that enough juice for you, or?
Yeah, so I would take that just because it's Tyreek. Like, okay. Tobin, he's going to have a big game at some point. I refuse to believe we're going to go 18 weeks of the NFL season, and Tyreek Hill's best game was week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, I'm sorry, I refuse to believe it. The same way I feel a little dicey about Aaron Rodgers having like one more game this year where he throws for almost 300 yards, and you're like, oh, no, it happened to us. Tyreek is going to have 1 or 2 big games this year. I feel confident in it. At some point, it's going to happen.
Interesting. What about Tua Tagovailoa? Do you like him to go over 325 in passing yards today at plus 475?
No. So, and it's not because I don't think Tua's going to have a good day, but if the Dolphins are going to lay the wood on the New York Jets today, you would imagine they'll have, a 10, 14 point, 2-score, 3-score cushion somewhere between the second and third quarter. Right, Tobin? That means end of third, fourth quarter, they're just handing the ball off and they're trying to run out that clock as much as possible. Keep the ball out of the Jets' hands.
But can they? Like, we saw this exact scenario a couple weeks ago against the Patriots, and they legitimately could not do that, Solana. So are they capable of it?
Oh, they're definitely capable of it. The question is, are they going to execute? Nobody's doubting the Dolphins are capable of putting up points. The problem is they've lacked execution all year. They haven't had those home run plays. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're capable of it, but are they going defensively to shut down Aaron Rodgers and the Jets running game? And if they do, then the offense is going to have an insane amount of chances all game long, Tobin. So I expect Tua to have, in the first half, 5-6 drives. I mean, if you could score touchdowns on 3 of those 6 at least, like, you've already put up more points than the Jets are capable of putting up.
All right, you were scared of Jonnu Smith. I give you one more because we're up against it. Jonnu Smith to go over 100 yards at plus 750, or plus 750, or Jalen Waddle to go over 100 yards at plus 850.
No, I'm not taking Waddle props over. Right. I'm not buying into it. I'm just not buying into it. What's Tua's rushing? What's Tua's rushing at?
Let me get into that real quick. Tua rushing number is 2.5.
2.5.
But it's like minus his overs minus 125.
Yeah. It's just 2.5 yards though, man. It's one rush that he needs. That's it. It's one. But he has been running. I think he hit it last week though, right? Against Green Bay, didn't he?
He's been hitting it. I think he's been hitting it.
No, he didn't against the Raiders. He didn't rush at all against the Raiders. But I think against Green Bay, he hit the over at 2.5.
All right, we'll take a break. That's your Porpoise Props. We'll predict the game ball and give some final thoughts on Dolphins and Jets. Game Day Uncensored back after this.
Brian Ranke here from Sunday Night Football on Westwood.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Final segment before we hand things off and get ready for a little Miami Dolphins, New York Jets action. You got Heat and Cavaliers coming up tonight. Preheat gets going at what time, Solana? 4:45?
4:45, yeah.
4:45. And before that, you get a little Game Day Uncensored post-game edition with the great Dan Day. And hopefully he'll be getting to react to a Dolphins victory over the New York Jets. Let's predict the game ball before we get out of here, Solana. If the Dolphins do win and Mike McDaniel were to keep game balls down to just, normal game ball status, which is 2 at the most.
Impossible.
Who do you predict getting the game ball?
Tobin, you know who I want to give it to? I believe the game ball is going to go to Big Justice and AJ because they're going to bring the boom to Hard Rock Stadium today.
That's what you're doing, huh? That's what you're going with?
I bought into the Costco guys, and not because I want to, but because my Instagram algorithm has forced them into my algorithm. So like I'm a fan of Costco guys.
I had no idea who the Costco guys were until somebody had posted Tua with them at like a concert this year, and I was like, I don't understand what they are. I don't get it.
Was that a concert with them?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but they had gotten Tua to do a cameo, I guess, and somebody on Dolphins Twitter put it out, and I'm like, well, who are these guys? And I still don't really know, but they are South Floridians, yeah? Like they live down here, aren't they?
Yeah,
aren't
they're
Boca
transplants.
natives?
I think they're from like Long Island, and they live in Boca Raton. They ran out the FAU football team onto the field this year.
Yeah, they're beloved. I mean, they're definitely beloved. I think they're more beloved than they are hated. I think in a world where I think they are. Now, listen, don't.
So. I think it's getting to the point where like people are just sick of them. They were on SNL, like.
Yeah,
they're sick of them. Now they have like the Rizzler who's always with them as well.
That kid definitely just wants to be left alone.
I saw. Never mind. I probably shouldn't say it. I don't know if it's appropriate, but
yeah. But it's one of those things where we're in this day and age. Like you just go viral, and then you get this crazy run. The hot Tua girl, though, apparently, she's got everybody upset because she did a pump and dump with the old crypto, huh?
Yeah, it looks like she's so dumb too, right? Like she was killing it. Her podcast was absolutely dominating, and then looks like now she's gonna be behind bars. It looks like
nobody mess with crypto, dude. Just like it's just it's just leading to all paths of stuff. So once these guys, if they do a NFT cookie crumble, whatever the hell. Why are they the Costco guys, though? Like, I've never seen them at Costco. Is that how they got famous?
Literally, they got famous. This is going back like 2 years. The dad and the son, before they had any big following, were just going to Costco, and they were making videos trying Costco foods. And the most popular one was the double chunk chocolate cookies and the chicken bake. The kid loved the chicken bake. The dad loved the double chunk chocolate cookies. He'd say it like that.
Well,
they blew up.
We're not bringing this up randomly, by the way. They are at Hard Rock Stadium, and they have the whole family, the whole 4 of them have Dolphins jerseys on.
Yeah.
So listen, at least if they're South Floridians who are transplants and they're not rooting for the New York teams, I'm all for it. So.
They were invited to New York Knicks
bought and paid for
training camp. Yeah, they were literally on the court with the New York Knicks earlier this year. Ridiculous.
All right. Well, I'm giving mine to Zach Sealer. I feel like he's going to turn Aaron Rodgers into a chew toy. He's also been doing that thing the last couple of games since he's come back from this injury. He's been like a whisker away from 2 forced fumbles because they give these quarterbacks that weak ass forward progress on their arms, which is a ridiculous rule. But he's been all up in everybody's kitchen.
I'm going Jalen Ramsey, by the way. Something tells me Jalen Ramsey hates Aaron Rodgers. I don't know that to be true. Just something tells me Jalen Ramsey does not like Aaron Rodgers. So I feel like we're going to see a big Jalen Ramsey play today.
All right, we're going defensive, and they both need that side of the ball definitely needs a bounce back. That's Game Day Uncensored, everybody. We will talk to you next time.
And that concludes the Week 14 edition of Game Day Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans. Football is coming up, and as always, we'll be back after the game to talk about it on AM 560 Sports WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.